Yo, what's up, guys? Sorry it took so long to actually start. I was washing my shoes and then I'm getting my bedding ready and stuff like that. Because I just washed it. But that's no excuse. I probably should have started the stream at 12:15, but whatever. Go ahead and open. I need. Problem. Alright. What in the world is I didn't. Where is the? Yo, what's going on, Tom? Thanks for lurking, dude. Where is? Hold on. Let me put on the video I want to put on. Oh my goodness gracious. Trying to get it cropped properly and I'm failing miserably. Alright. I got that set up. Let me make sure everything else is good. Let me get the attempt counter up real quick. Alright. Alright, attempt counter's up. Okay, let me let me get I'm not gonna set up my green screen yet because I need to get my I need to get my bedding out of the washer in a minute. Put it in the dryer. But then I will put the green, I'll fix the green screen. So let's go ahead and watch some of this. And do some KAIZO, baby. Late night KAIZO. Appreciate you dropping in, Tom, though. I really do.
We unlocked the new cup. So we about to do that, and we're gonna try some knockout tour too. The giveaway. I know that's what y'all here for. Stop playing. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not here for the giveaway. I already got the Switch 2. Yeah, goofus. I've actually been having a lot of fun 100%ing MyAAA World so far.
There's gonna be people trying to scam y'all.
Wait, I think okay, I'll just go ranking because I normally am ranking, but I wasn't making. What the frick is that stat spread, dude?
Messing y'all on X, Twitter, Instagram, anything.
That's an insane stat spread for a tour trick. What the heck?
Stay safe. I will email you guys if you win, okay? Because when you fill up the document, it has your email address. So I will email you.
I'm not gonna get a Switch 2 until Gen 10. All I care about. Yeah, that's fair. Because you know the next Pokemon game after ZA won't be or it will be Switch 2 exclusive.
So handle that. Watch the video because I got specific questions about the video for it. So the link for the other.
Alright, mid game. Oxacroat can be good. This one is not.
So now there's a
kind of in the same moveset though.
Questions in the description of this video, right? That's it. Hey, what y'all snacking on? Leftover birthday.
Nice, we out of the lab. Love to see it.
Different. When you put that in the fridge.
Thunderbolt. Wow.
I don't know what it is.
This is kind of insane.
We gotta be running from nobody.
If it wasn't so slow, I'd be kind of tempted to run it.
Like this. Wait, that's dance. We gonna run. No, wait. Actually, yeah, wait. So you can stay back there and I can win the race. And then we're gonna dance on your ass like this.
Antar, I can't pivot to that, unfortunately.
I already know who I want to pick. I was thinking about it because I used to roll with this character a while ago, and I'm like, you know what? Let me give him a chance. Y'all already know who it is. Dry Bones. He good? He good? Damn. Hey, that bitch was so excited he fell apart. No. Okay. What we
Yes, I
gonna
watch
do?
Dashy Games. Yes, he cusses. I don't cuss on my streams, and I will not cuss on my streams. But
I might regret this because I was
who freaking cares, you guys? I have the volume turned down, and plus, I doubt anyone's gonna watch this. Can if they want to, but. All right, we need to pivot like almost immediately because we need a faster mon. I could run from the Tyranitar. Let's try to pivot in this route. All right, just to get the level 5.
I saw him. Does that mean he's here?
Tyranitar Joe's actually pretty good. That means it gets rid of its weakness to water pretty much. I'm not catching a Dratini. What's the other option? There's should be one more option. I think there's 3 encounters in this route. Let me check actually. Are there? Yeah, there's 3 encounters in this route. But one's kind of rare. Yeah, let's not worry about it too much. Let's look up here. Poor chick. Oh, seriously? Like only encountering Torchic right now. What the heck is going on? Why am I only encountering Torchic? Short ring? Only encountering base form starters? This is a weird freaking file, bro. We'll go check the lake encounter. Yes. Stop playing with him. You see him with the multiple tricks. Somebody was trying. Show ass out of here, boy. Rapidash could be good. We want to get to level 6 though, obviously. I don't like the fact that I can run from it. Means it's probably slow. Leafeon will take 2. Whatever level 6 I find first, ow, I will catch.
It's unacceptable. Yo, stop. Oh my.
Oh, of course now I can't escape when I'm damaged.
Hey, watch out. Don't pass him too hard. That bitch got red shells. He gonna get me. I haven't really been using the grinding skills, but we gotta work up to that. How many damn tricks am I gonna do? Stay down here. No, stay up here. Yup. Yup.
There's level 6.
There you go. There you go.
I'll just catch it in 5 balls. Let's both could be good.
4th. That's not too bad. 3rd. I like that.
There we go.
Give me some.
Alright, hopefully it's good. Oh. Mixed attacker, a little slow.
That's not who I was aiming for. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. Ooh, okay.
I'll try to run it. I'll check what the fishing encounters are. But, I will take this past the first few trainers anyway.
Now, does this make you go quicker? I don't know. Maybe. Do one more. One more. That's fucked up. Yo, don't hit me in the air. No! Yo, he protected himself. He should have protected me too. Go. There we go. There we go, Dash. That was a good little shortcut right there. Back. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, I shouldn't have gotten rid of that. Give me some. Oh, my lot. Okay, come on.
Wow, crit drill preg from a Pidgeotto. Who could have saw that coming? Alright, I'll be right back, guys. I'm gonna go get my betting in the Drya. Alright, back. And I got my green screen set up. There we go. Okay. That looks a lot better.
Dirty. Okay, I'll take the damn Warriors right there. Alright, who's the problem? Who was the problem? Who came in first? Was that King Boo? It was. And Mario trying to step it up with the little Japanese outfit? Oh, yeah. Yo,
Yeah, I'm almost done unlocking all the costumes in Mario Kart World. I still have a few enemies to unlock though, I think.
and he got his own game. Well, you do too, but his games are a little bit fun because you react quick.
Struggling?
Probably my worst one, and I want to apologize.
Well, I only have normal type moves against a steel type legendary. This is not going to go well. I didn't even get to attack, much less
Hey, I'm digging
do
his
any
outfit.
damage.
I'm digging Mario outfit. I'm not gonna lie, but he might be the problem. This might be his. Well, he's already unlocked, so it can't be him. But oh damn, that's all right. Here we go. Yeah, step behind it. Step it. Yo, stop! A damn bumblebee, bitch. What the fuck? And then they gonna take my shit. All right.
It's illegal, I have to go shift
I
stream.
like you. Don't do this. Step behind Prince Beach. Double shits.
We're fighting Dialga twice in a row though, that's insane.
Yo, that
History repeats itself, I guess.
Alright.
I'm so sorry.
Yo, 2 out of 3? That's crazy. Come on.
Hope we can get at least one favorite today.
Got your ass. They got. That's right. That's right. Get this right here. Get this. That is get. Get shut the. No! Who keeps throwing these shits? Yo, I know your brothers is right there. You don't gotta act up, bruh. Stay behind me.
Search Gate. Absolutely amazing.
Oh my god, I missed that mushroom.
At least pure power is legal on it,
Alright, we
I
here.
guess.
Let me get a little boost. Got the shits.
Not that it mattered.
Said, damn, yo, he threw that shit with passion. What the?
Wah, 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 wah.
We got a shortcut.
I love the theme song for that track.
Yup, you'll see him.
I actually got all the question. I just got all the question mark panels in that specific track today.
Oh my lord. Bruh. Come on. I can only imagine Rainbow Road. Grab these.
Wow, all of these Pokemon are garbage.
King Boo,
The
really
frick?
a problem. Mario, I don't want to hear it. I know that's your court, your circuit. Come on. All right.
Dang, I would have rather spin rack, honestly.
This is the last shit. There's one more shit. That's all right. He was already messed up. I shouldn't have used it. Get him! You get him! Throw him back. Oh my god, I didn't even get a throw on Solons. I did get a little.
You didn't even get a duel on Stallone, guys.
Double shit.
Bad.
Shit, get
Alright, looking.
That bitch, ow, I heard him.
Ooh, Weevil's the only good choice.
That's what you're at.
Wow, talk about Bulk City. Look at this.
Mario? I mean, I get the game named after him, but damn. Yeah.
I guess I can create it.
Uh,
Or flinch. Maybe we can do both. I don't remember.
Mario have a heart. It's already called Mario Kart.
I would have won if it wasn't for light screen.
But please, can I just get W though? My freestyle's getting worse. I'm sorry. My bad. All right. Come on. Dash, you need to focus.
Yo, thanks for lurking the doof. I appreciate
Hey,
it.
you know what it is? Y'all know I gotta come up
Appreciate the
with
lurks.
You know what it is?
No! Whose phone just went off, guys? Come on.
Look what Mario got. He know what time it is. He knows it's about them bites. You didn't pick a bite?
Cascoon?
Yike.
We're-
Nope. Use that. Yep.
I guess we're just stuck in the lab simulator today, guys.
Excuse me.
Just one of those days, I guess.
See, because Wario covers a lot of mass, right? So you can stand right behind him and get a lot of boost. How you get hit? Come on.
Or he's not that fat. That's kind of mean.
What the fuck? How did that skip him? That's fine. That shit's still flying. There you go. There you go.
There's a guy in the corner. I'm watching Dashy Games play the new Mario Kart game.
Okay. Yo, place at the buttons.
This game can be good.
Into one of these shits.
Mixed attacker, bad defense. Good ability though.
Yo, grab lunch.
Oh, of course you have a stab, super effective psychic type move, and you outspeed. I don't know if I would have one shot. Probably not, but
Red shells.
I mean it's like whatever.
Do the little hole joint and do the jump. I wonder if you could jump over them. Okay, keep this right here. Relax. Got it. Who the hell is? Bitch, Donkey set them out here. Donkey set them out here. You see? He probably dropped now. He kept fitting that shit. Boom. Bop.
I think could be good.
Killing it.
This one is not, however.
Boom. Oh, I shouldn't have gotten rid of that.
Water sport, lol, K.
Bop. Bop. Watch out. Watch
Oh,
out.
it was a loafer.
Bop. Yo,
Rid of the
shit
flying
getting
type.
What happened to music? Double shits. Oh, no. Give me a horn. No.
Easy,
Do it. I should have grabbed lunch. And this probably the ending too.
I think it's Bulk City. This is like the perfect like mon to pivot with. It's got great defense, decent speed, good health. Like this is the best pivot mon I've ever seen in my entire life.
No, I gave him a boost. Oh, there's more.
Well, I guess the only way it could be better is if I had like a sleep move to put him to sleep or whatever, but
Who the fuck is that? Mario! What the? Grab these. Bop. Bop. This is the only way you can win, Dash. Watch out!
Poison Dark is a great type. It's only weak to ground, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's only got a weakness to ground.
That bitch have protection. Yes, thank you for the boost, bitch.
And I have plenty of moves to deal with ground types.
Double shits, you need this. Keep this. I know you're gonna find a way to cheat.
But for pivot to the, I don't know. I don't need to pivot to Pidgeot
Oh my god.
unless I won't pivot to Pidgeot unless the other ones and the other routes are awful.
With your boy. He's gonna toss your own shit like that. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have a stone, do I?
Yo, Mario, don't make me cut you and then leave a scario. My God, that was bad. My
Leave a
sincerest
scario.
apologies for all the freestyle taken
Ooh, boss
place
is
in this
good.
video. I'm sorry.
Gotta catch it, obviously.
Here we go, a scario.
Wow, okay, that's... Hey, it could just be a
Oh shit.
special attacker.
In order, where the hell are we going? Oh shit, we about to go up to the sky, yo.
I'm kind of skeptical about this Blastoise. It didn't do a lot of damage. I know I'm really bulky, but like...
Oh my God. Yo, I'm scared about this. This is the
Okay.
last race, right?
That Bubble Beam's kind of crazy, though.
Oh, we
I haven't...
stay flow on
Oh,
this?
super slow.
Should we stay flow?
Yeah, this thing is not it, Chief. Yeah, no, it did not do that much damage.
Get the beat. Get that bitch. Yup. Yo, he wasn't even faced.
Honestly, the Pidgeot's looking pretty good. What do you get that?
Yo, we about to really go to Rainbow Road right now. Bitch, this shit look like wave race. Oh, this shit
Fake
about to
out's
be
pretty
crazy.
good. Stab.
We going straight to heaven on that?
That fake out could be good. Oh, wow, you are even slower. What the heck?
Shit look magical.
How are you slower?
I'm nervous.
Dude, what are these mons I'm getting, man?
Oh my God, here we go, y'all. I hope Wario get first place.
Flareon.
I'm sorry, player.
With Dragon Dance? Oh!
Come on, Dash, just don't fall off the track.
I gotta get that Flareon.
Stay your ass on
I
the
need that Flareon in my life.
track. You need double shits and
Okay,
I need
please
a
do
red
not
shell.
die before I make it to the Pokemon Center. Please do not die before I make it to the Pokemon Center. Please do not die before I make it to the Pokemon Center.
What is that?
Please do not die for a big Pokemon Center.
Oh my, yes. Yup. Handle that.
Dragon Dance, Aero Blast. Wait, is Aero Blast special or physical?
They cheat.
I don't remember, actually. Anyway, I don't care. Dragon Dance is a great move to have, special or physical attacker.
Another boost. With that behind. That bitch took my shit.
Oh man, why do I have to keep running to level 3, man?
Oh no, was this a mistake? You probably know the better way to go.
I just gotta try to catch it.
It's right there, Mario. What are you doing?
I can't run.
That bitch said konnichiwa, cuz. Take the double shits. It's
Can't.
5 laps. Okay. All right, where are we? We soaring through the sky, birds and shit.
Yeah, the evolutions are hard to catch, and
What?
man, I wish hindsight I should have checked the lake encounters first with Skuntank, but I mean,
Where this bitch at? You right there.
hindsight's not very helpful now, is it?
I already know they gonna
It just makes you feel worse.
Okay, we're back at it.
Scyther?
Oh shit. Okay, go right.
Wow, this is a great Scyther. Holy crap! Shield Us is an amazing ability too.
Any second now, that bitch gonna
Please don't hate yourself. Please don't hate yourself. Please don't hate yourself. Don't miss. Don't miss. Don't hate yourself. Don't miss yourself. Oh my gosh, thank you. I want to run this thing. I do want to run it actually. This is a great stat spread. Holy crap. I know this typing's awful, but that stat spread though.
What the fuck? Oh no, I got rid of it.
Good ability too.
Hit me. Ow! Out of all places to
I could try to evolve it, I guess, but like,
It's where we going, Mario
I don't know.
Galaxy?
maybe I will, maybe I won't.
This shit crazy.
It's just,
Oh my god, who is doing that?
probably not. I probably won't evolve it.
I need red shells, not these shits.
Good thing we got Crabhammer for rock types though. But I mean, that's not like an Electivire. Oh man, why do you have to give me like a great starter and then you throw an Electivire in the wild, bro? Seriously?
Thank you.
This game hates me.
Get him. Get him. Yup. Come on.
I think I have to go for the Electivire, honestly. Scyther's typing's awful. Even though the set spread is freaking amazing, it's just,
What the hell?
ah man, I don't know. No, I shouldn't do the Electivire just because it's only gonna be level 5. If it was gonna be level 6, then sure, but
Get behind this bitch. What the fuck? This shit is crazy. Go through the stars.
Oh, frick you so hard.
This
Actually, frick you so hard.
Wait, I died so right the train. Come on. Come on, man. You could have done better than that.
The thing is, I knew that Scyther wasn't gonna win. I think it had potential to at least get me a PB. Just so we got like attack order or something.
Shit, I need it. Come on.
You were slow, really bulky physical attacker though.
Let him get close to me, see what happens.
Marsport, okay.
Bitches is right behind me. Where's the end at?
This is gonna hurt.
Pass it.
He got wow, he's got 2 charge moves. It's hilarious.
Bumping right now.
I mean, if you count those as charge moves, I guess.
Come here. Oh my god. Where are they, y'all? I don't want to use it. Oh! That was the ending.
All right, wrecking. Wow. I mean, okay.
Yo,
Ouch.
I'm overwhelmed. Yo.
Roll 1 by 1 point. That's
Leave me
insane.
alone. With the knee, dry bones. Mario, you ain't staying a chance. Matter of fact, all you could do is dance like you do on the intro screen. I don't even care if you on magazines. I'ma do my thing. I'ma kill you quick. I don't even play player. Holla at your boy though. That one at least make up a little bit for the terrible freestyles that I did. Yo. Just go.
Alright, making. Espeon can be good.
Roller coaster of emotions.
Oh my gosh, that spread in half. Wow.
I mess with King Boo. I like him. Alright, I rock with this Mario because he got on the Japanese outfit. Alright, where we about
I'm
to
making.
go?
Frick off!
I'm running out of wrestling.
That's the second time in the past couple days I could have had him a champ. They got some trash, bro.
This one was a little bit longer than usual.
Wow, and of course it had close combat, dude. Of course I could have had him a champ with the close combat.
Okay, wait. What's gonna happen now? Let's find out. What's gonna happen? Do I unlock something different? What do we get? Bitch, I'm on a newspaper. The credits? Word? Don't worry, we're still gonna do knockout tour. Sakura season? Okay.
Holy, a special attack.
So we don't beat the game, but it's not over yet. We got plenty to do.
Of course you have Flare Blitz! Of course you do! Probably the only move that could have one-shot me. Oh, wow.
I was about to say, he's the only one showing all them teeth, but Wario is too. Congratulations. Thank you for playing Mario Kart World. Hey, I like that. Let's go to
You're
knockout
welcome.
tour. From my understanding, this joint is where like you have to place a certain place or you get eliminated from the race. See what I did? All right. Who should we rock with?
Signal beam on Caterpie, let's go.
Yosh. Let's go with the homie Yosh for good luck. There's the 1, 2, 3. There's different shits to this.
Oh, we're gonna die in one hit.
We're gonna play all of them. I don't know. Oh, I like that because it has a spooky joint. But I gotta at least go in order, right? Let me see. Let's try this one out. See what they talk about. 150cc. Don't play with me, B. Shit. Nah, don't show me it. Just skip this. I want to be surprised. I mean, I kind of saw it, but I still want to be surprised. Damn, look at it. Yo, Dracula on that. Donkey not even present. I feel like ever since Donkey got his own amusement park at Universal Studios, got his own game coming out, he like, yo, I don't even gotta show up to this no more. Damn, Donkey, that's how you feel. Let's get it. All right.
This attacker, bulky.
We gotta
Wanted to move his ice
so we can unlock
punch.
some characters. Bye. Go.
Oh wow, of course you have a fighting type move. Of course you do.
This gonna be-
I don't even know. I'm genuinely just not shocked by like anything the rival has anymore.
Sorry about that. Ooh, you brought that on yourself. You brought that on yourself. Oh, I should have got that. Boom. Bop. Yup. Boom.
Yeah, this is just gonna be one of those lab streams, I guess, because
Get
I'm
the lunch. Wait, do I have the lunch?
just
I don't know.
barely getting out with anything.
I do have it. What? Yo, he bought a new outfit. Scuba? Swim gear? Okay, great. We in first. Let's get it.
Wow, stab flamethrower is kind of wild for an Arcanine.
Flip-flops gonna slow down because, you know, it's
Yeah, I'll try to run it. Just because you rarely see a Arcanine with stab flamethrower, that's insane.
because
It's got like no defense though.
the wet sheds he got to his feet might slow him down.
But rare we get to run Arcanine, so.
Okay, we got 20 shits. Nothing? Alright. Is there another burger spot? Because I want to...
Whatever, that just prevents me from being burned, doesn't it? That's completely useless.
Definitely got that. Oh, they got the crown to the top.
Wow,
Come on.
Forest Store. Burning hard with these heals, man.
They just take the crown instantly? Alright. Hey, relax. But yeah, handle that. What Chaz got? Let me get that crown back. You can have that. I ain't even want that. You hungry? That bitch needed a snack. He can have that. Give me something.
Should I get the free? I can't run away. I have 18 speed, guys, and I couldn't run away. What in the world? Why is that Dawn fan so freaking fast?
I almost messed that up. That's alright. We saved
What in the world, man?
That's what I get for being adventurous. Who is that? Who was that? Was that another Yosh?
Wait, what kind of Yoshi is he playing?
I need this.
Oh, orange Yoshi.
Bop. Oh, fuck. Yes. Let me
Really
have
buff,
this.
right?
Boom. Bop. Beat. I thought I was going to
Drop,
do it, but I did. Come on. This light work for you, boy. That rainbow road, though, that was crazy. A bus. Hey, that bus driver better watch out.
I wish I'd be, you know, fighting Pokemon that actually gave me freaking experience, but whatever.
Baby Rosalina? Okay, y'all doing too much. Yeah, get him.
Hope I get to level 10 at least before I get to the trainer school.
Come on. Give me something better than that. I'll take that. Get behind Luigi. Oh, watch out. That bitch got a boomerang and bananas. Now, maybe it's not good to drift up. Thank you. Oh, I wanted 2 shit. I did hit 2 shit.
Oh, screw getting a level 10, right? Dude, what in the world? Back to back to back, all low experience trainers, dude. This sucks.
Damn. Okay, 16. Come on, man. Bop. All right. Stay behind him. What is that?
Finally get some kind of experience here. Jeez.
Okay. Oh, you don't really slow down that much in the mud. Why did I use that? That's fine. That's fine. Watch out. Yep. I won't settle for anything but first. I shouldn't have said that. That's putting a lot of pressure on me. All right. Yep. Yep. No lunch? I can get something better than that. Don't hit me. Yes. Keep these. Lunch. Oh, but I ain't gonna have.
Yeah, we got the Koba Bear. Let's freaking go, man.
Weech, you gotta go. You definitely gotta go. Come on. Damn, hit that car, bitch. Bop. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. It was an accident, but good accident. Hey, let me get that crown up off you, my boy. Let me get that crown one time. Appreciate that. That bitch fighting me for the crown. Yo, relax. All right. That shit was gonna hit me.
Does Arcanine level up slower than other? I thought all Pokemon gained erratic experience except for legendaries or something.
Okay, now I'm at max speed. We about to hit this right here. Here we go. Yo, why?
14 is probably the lowest level I've ever been for the Ryle here. I could be wrong.
Child, a lot of hazards. Oh, wait, we got a burger coming up? Is this food? What is that? That ain't food. Oh, here we go. Let's see if we got another outfit.
Of course you have slow start, you suck.
Okay, yes! What he got? What is it? Torn? Okay, I see you.
I like our nature.
Child.
Probably the best nature we could have gotten.
Boom.
I mean, I would have preferred, like,
Yo, cops, how you doing? I'm sorry, officer.
down an attack, I guess. But other than that, it's good nature.
Boom.
It's amazing.
Oh boy, super
Oh, that didn't one shot? It's kind of insane.
What the fuck?
Not even capping, guys.
Alright. That's what you get. Watch out, keep this. Thank you.
I mean, there's no point in not going for flamethrower. It never misses. It's the only move I have that doesn't miss.
Relax!
Or can't miss, I guess.
No!
Oh, why does everything in the save health slow start? I mean, I'm not complaining. It's just
What the fuck? Why everybody-
observation, I guess.
Hey, that was cutting it kind of close. That was cutting it kind of close. Hey, chill. Don't let him get behind you. Watch out. Yes. Get him. What the fuck?
I'll be lucky if I get to level 21 for the gym at this pace.
Chill.
sky play. Let's go, I guess.
Yup. Go. Who is in front? Is that Shy Guy? That bitch ain't shy right now. Stay here. Follow his lead.
Why couldn't there be a move that ups your defense and your special attack? That would have been great.
Okay. I need some juicy. Red shells, please. Bitch, I thought that lead was gonna get me. He got fucked up. Take that. I don't even want that.
Oh my gosh, one encounter later. Seriously.
Maybe not good when you're in first place. But keep this banana right here. Yep. Stop. Stop. Okay, watch the acorn. That bitch took my shit. Got him. Okay. Oh, it's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. Boom. Yep. Ooh, he probably gonna grind on y'all ass. Watch out, watch out. What the hell is that? Who just dropped like that? What is that?
Like, this is a really good finisher move. Or a finisher move slash move to use on one trainer Pokemon. 1.1 trainers. One trainer Pokemon.
Yes. I'm back over here again. Oh man, it's not looking good, y'all. This the end? That was intense. That was
At least he
intense.
finished it. I mean, he didn't win, but at least he won. Shekel!
Yeah.
Yo, I was actually just hoping for an iron.
That didn't even make sense.
I'll
This
take
race
them,
right here was intense. Something
I'll take
like
those
6
free,
seconds, 'cause it was
defense
6
EVs.
laps.
Pretty much.
Holy crap. Let me yap. When I saw him coming, I'm like, bitch, this a trap. Oh, we still get like a little
Zinc?
celebration, too.
Do I want to use that? My special defense is already pretty good. No, I'm good. I'll pass.
If I unlock anything. I mean, listen, I'll take third. There was a lot going on. I feel like the difficulty a little bit.
I'm only barely gonna be 21 for the gym. That's insane.
Alright, y'all, I'm gonna end it right here. Let me know what y'all think.
They did the video already?
Next, like I said, knockout tour.
I know. What about? I guess put this video on.
Tell me if this sounds familiar. You're just casually playing Super Mario 64 when all
Nope.
of a sudden,
Doesn't sound
bam,
familiar.
you hit something. But what'd you hit? It
Mom.
doesn't look like there's anything there, but for some reason,
I hate your
the
mom.
game considers you to be
Spoiler
hitting
alert.
something in that spot. So this is what we call an invisible wall, and there are many of them in the game. Now for most
Wall,
people,
okay.
invisible walls are like this mysterious, elusive thing. You may have seen clips like this.
Oh! What was that? There's an invis wall there?
Or like this.
An invis wall. Oh, you saved so much time by saying invis instead of
Like
invisible.
this.
What? No. What the? What the?
Or like this.
Doesn't really look like we have it.
And invisible.
All right,
Yep.
gym time.
Yep!
Or like this.
Why is there an invisible wall there?
Yeah, why is there an invisible wall there? Why do all of these strange interactions happen? For decades, invisible walls have
I have to go
tormented
Psycho
players,
Boost here.
messing up runs and causing tons of confusion, because nobody really seems to know what invisible walls are or why they're there. So, I made it my mission to answer that and put an end to the confusion. So come with me on this journey as we delve into the
Frick
deep,
no.
dark inner heart of invisible walls. This is Invisible Walls Explained once and for all.
Invisible walls explained, guys. Let's listen to this. I'm actually gonna
But
speed this
before
video
we get
because
to
it's really
invisible
long.
walls, there are some basic fundamentals of Super Mario 64 that we need to go
The
over
fundamentals.
first. So, all geometry in the game is made up of surface triangles, which you can see here. Now, there are 3 different types of surface
Really?
triangles. First,
count?
there are floors. Floors are the triangles that you can stand on, and in visuals, we color them blue. Second, there are walls. Walls are the
Frick you,
triangles
man,
that you can
Tyke.
push, punch, kick, and wall jump off of. We color them green. And third, there are
I
ceilings.
don't want to risk missing
Ceilings
air.
are the triangles that if you jump up into them, they'll cut short your upwards trajectory.
Alright,
And some
fighting a
ceilings
Togepi. Let's go
even
in
let you
Super
hang on
Potion
them
here.
and swing around. We color ceilings red. Now, one important property of a triangle is its normal vector. Think of a triangle's normal vector as an arrow that juts out perpendicularly
Oh,
from the
frick
triangle.
off.
Interestingly, it's the direction of a triangle's normal vector that determines whether the triangle is a floor, wall, or ceiling. If the normal vector is pointing upwards at all, then the triangle is a floor. See, even these triangles count as floors because their normal
face
vectors
very
point just a tiny bit upwards. On the other hand,
easy to
if the
defeat
normal
Pokemon in
vector
that
is
gym.
pointing downwards at all, then the triangle is a ceiling.
We just
So
didn't
even these
get
ones are ceilings
lucky in
because
terms
their
of what
normal
Pokemon he
vectors
used.
point just a tiny bit downwards. And finally, if the normal vector is pointing exactly
Man,
sideways or
and take that
extremely close
freaking-
to exactly
Of course
sideways,
Latios
then
had
the triangle is a
outrage,
wall.
dude.
So now you know the three kinds of triangles.
Ooh, that's a
floors,
favorite.
Walls, and ceilings, whose normal vectors
Wow.
point upwards, sideways,
This
and
is
downwards,
garbage.
respectively. Note that here I'm showing
It's the
triangles
worst favorite
from
I've
the
ever
sides,
seen in my
so they just
entire
look like
Grand Land.
lines from this angle. Now we're going to talk about the triangle.
Oh wow,
hitboxes,
stab slash from
aka
Regigigas.
how these
Yeah,
triangles
we didn't have a
affect Mario and
choice.
the area around them.
Or
Let's
chance,
start
I mean.
with floors. A floor's hitbox extends 78 units below the floor, and its effect is that it snaps Mario up onto the floor. So we can see that as Mario enters the hitbox,
Finally got a
it's
favorite.
snapped up.
We got a favorite
Now
to stream
let's
and it was
make this
absolute
visual
freaking
more
garbage
precise.
and we died in one
See,
turn.
Mario's
This is great.
position is the point at the bottom center of his model, which I'll represent with this symbol. So when I talk about Mario entering a hitbox, it's purely about whether the point at the bottom center of his model enters the hitbox, not just any point on his model entering the hitbox.
Alright,
Also,
Kakuna versus
Mario doesn't
Golem,
move
who will
around
win?
continuously, but in discrete chunks,
I don't know.
which I'll represent with yellow arrows. So let's watch it again. Mario moves to the right, one arrow
Golem
at
wins.
a time, and now he's about to enter the floor hitbox. So on the next step, Mario enters the floor hitbox and then gets snapped up onto the floor. In other words, those two arrows happen on the same step, so we never actually see Mario below the floor. Here's what a floor snap looks like in the game. Mario walks towards the wooden post and then snaps up onto it. If we have multiple floors in a row, then Mario would snap up on each one of them, so his height increases each time he reaches a new step. That's how climbing stairs works in the game. And if the floor is at an angle, then Mario would snap up each time he moves. So in this case, his height increases continuously. And that's how ramps work in the game. Though, note that floors will also snap Mario downwards to some extent, so that walking downhill works too.
You did the
Now
meteor
let's talk
mash.
about walls. A wall's hitbox extends
Actually,
out 50
that's
units
insane.
on both sides, and it's offset to be a little lower down than the wall triangle itself. Its effect is that it pushes Mario
We're gonna miss a
sideways in the
50% accurate
direction
move
of the
at least
triangle's
once,
normal
please.
vector, which in this case is to the
I would've
left.
literally won,
so we
actually.
can see that as Mario enters this hitbox, he gets displaced sideways, putting him exactly flush with the wall's hitbox and also putting him into the pushing animation. Just like before, the arrow for Mario going into the hitbox and the arrow for Mario being pushed out of the hitbox happen on the same step, so we don't actually see Mario inside of the wall hitbox. And so now, if Mario just keeps walking into the wall hitbox, then he ends up pushing against the wall in a state of equilibrium. Like on every
Interesting.
step,
I forgot
goes
that
a
was an
little
ability,
into
to
the
be
wall,
honest.
Then gets pushed out that distance, then goes a little into the wall, then gets pushed out that distance, etc. So that's what's going on when you push against the wall in the game. So even though Mario's position is 50 units away from the wall triangle, it still looks like he's touching the wall because his model is about 50 units in radius. In contrast, if Mario enters the wall hitbox from the other side, then he gets a big push from the wall, because this time he gets displaced almost all of the 100 unit diameter of the wall hitbox. Here's what that looks like in the game, though you're not normally meant to go into a wall from that side. And then for ceilings, their hitbox extends
Everyone's pretty
from
decent type,
160
it's just
units
it's
below the ceiling to infinitely
PST is
upwards.
kinda awful.
Now the lower portion and upper portion have the same effect, but what effect that is actually varies based on what action Mario's in, so let's go through the different actions. First, if Mario's on the ground, then the ceiling hitbox cancels his movement. So you can see that as Mario tries to enter the hitbox, his movement gets cancelled, which prevents him from entering the ceiling hitbox. And he also does the pushing animation when this happens. Here's what that looks like in the game. So note that even though Mario's 160 units below the ceiling triangle, it basically looks like his head is touching the ceiling because his model is just under 160 units tall. Second, if Mario's in the air and tries to enter a ceiling hitbox, then what happens depends on whether he's moving upwards or downwards. If he enters a ceiling hitbox while moving upwards, then his movement gets cancelled and his vertical speed gets set to 0. This cuts short his
Yo,
upwards
window barrier, let's
trajectory,
freaking
so
go.
from that point on, he'll start moving downwards due to gravity. I mean, gravity
That's
gets
kinda
applied
berry.
every frame
Spoiler
you're in
alert.
the air, but in these visuals, I'm simplifying things and only applying it when it's relevant to the point I'm making. So here's jumping up into a ceiling in the game. It cuts short Mario's upwards movement, and then he
I know it
falls
resisted,
down
but that doesn't do a
afterwards.
lot.
On the other
My
hand,
switch
if
supposed
he
to do
enters a
anything good.
ceiling hitbox while moving downwards, then only the horizontal component of his movement gets
Maybe I should go
canceled,
catch
and so
Skarmy
just
first.
does the vertical component, which is moving straight down. Like, ceilings aren't going to cancel the whole movement, because that would let you hover in the air, and I have a hunch the programmers didn't want that. So here's what falling into a ceiling looks like in the game. It cancels Mario's horizontal movement to prevent him from going inside the ceiling hitbox, but he still falls down. And then third, if Mario's in water, then the ceiling hitbox doesn't cancel his movement, but instead snaps him down to the bottom of the ceiling hitbox. So we can see that as Mario enters the hitbox, he gets snapped down. Here's what that looks like in the game. Mario snaps down as soon as he enters the ceiling hitbox. And if the ceiling is at an angle, then Mario snaps down each time he moves forwards. So for example, if I swim into the ship, I get moved
Skarmy the
downwards
rare encounter.
accordingly. Now, you may find it strange that ceiling
Guess
hitboxes
so.
extend infinitely upwards. Like, if a ceiling triangle's right here, then why should it have an effect way up here? Well, the thing is, most of the time, you only have access to the lower portion of the hitbox. The upper portion is
Thanks
usually
for
out
that.
of reach, and so you wouldn't notice
I'm gonna
its
look for
effects.
forever for a
In
Skarmy
fact,
that I probably won't be able to
ceilings
catch.
typically fall into one of two cases. Case one, we're in an enclosed room, so the hitboxes look like this. In this case, the hitboxes prevent you from exiting the room. Like, if you try to exit downwards, the floor snaps you back up. If you try to exit
Everyone.
sideways, the wall pushes you back in.
We'll start,
And
wow.
if you try to exit upwards, the ceiling cancels your movement and cuts short your upwards trajectory. So in this case, the room keeps you inside, and so you'd never normally be all the way up here interacting with the upper ceiling hitbox. And then case two, there's
Good
an
one.
enclosed structure, like a box. So the hitboxes look like this. Now, I said ceiling
Characters
hitboxes
illegal.
extend infinitely upwards, but that's just what
Alright,
they
this
do
might be
in
dead in
isolation.
file, but
Because you see, when there's a floor above the ceiling, then the ceiling hitbox only extends upwards until it meets the floor hitbox. So you can see that the inside of this box is filled
I'll
with
try
the upper
to-
portion of the ceiling hitbox. And once again,
I'll
this
try to
upper portion
get
is
the
inaccessible
fishing pivots,
since
but-
there's no way to enter the box. Like, if you try to enter going downwards, the floor snaps you back up. If you
Ow.
try to enter going sideways, the wall
Oh, she
pushes
did
you
it.
back out. And
Alright,
if you
cool.
try to enter going upwards, the ceiling cancels your movement and cuts short your upwards trajectory. So in this case, the box keeps you out, and so you'd never normally be inside of it interacting with the upper ceiling hitbox. One other note, you can see that the triangle hitboxes overlap in some cases, which brings into question which ones take priority. Well, that's actually pretty simple. Wall interactions happen first, so I put their hitboxes on the top layer, then floor interactions, so they're on the next layer, and then ceiling
They're more of a
interactions,
physical
so they're
attacker
on
for
the
sure.
bottom layer. Now, even though ceiling hitboxes cancel Mario's movement, there are still some ways to enter a ceiling hitbox, like by having an object push you into it. For example, here I have a Bob-omb push me into a ceiling hitbox, specifically the ceiling on the underside of the cog. So now I'm actually stuck because the ceiling cancels any movement I try to do, and it won't let me jump up either. Separately, here's what it looks like to enter a ceiling hitbox in the air. Mario just falls straight down since any sideways movement gets cancelled. And so there, we actually did touch the upper portion of a ceiling hitbox because we entered above the ceiling of the tunnel. So anyway, now we know the hitboxes of the three types of triangles. But there's one other hitbox that's also important, which is out of bounds. Now the term out of bounds can mean different things depending on the context. Like, a person might say that getting right here is out of bounds, because this isn't somewhere that you're intended to go in the course. But that's not what we mean in this case. See, the most useful way to define out of bounds is any point in space where there's no floor triangle below. So if our entire course was just this one floor triangle, then all of this area would be out of bounds. So that's everything to the side of the triangle and below it, just not above it. Think about it like this. The default state of space is out of bounds, and floors create safe havens above them. Also note that we color out of bounds gray and give it this symbol, and you'll see why in a moment. Now for the most part, Mario isn't allowed to enter out of bounds. If he's on the ground and tries to enter out of bounds, then his movement gets cancelled and he pushes, just like with ceilings. An easy place to see this is on the castle roof. Just walk up to the edge and Mario will start pushing. If Mario's in the air and tries to enter out of bounds,
Yeah, we got the
then the
chopper bear, let's
horizontal
freaking-
component of his movement gets cancelled, and so he only does the vertical component. So unlike ceilings, this happens for both upwards and downwards movement. That means you can jump up against out of bounds without it cutting short your
Oregon
upwards
Z.
trajectory.
Okay,
And finally,
that actually can be
if
good.
Mario's in water and tries to
Try to
enter
find a
out of
higher higher level one
bounds,
though,
then his
obviously.
movement just gets cancelled. There's not a normal place where this happens in the game, but if you clip into the tunnel in Wet Dry World like we did earlier, then you
With these fish encounters, I always settle for
because of that,
level
the
11
town
at the
section
lowest.
of the level isn't loaded, and so you can just swim into the end of
I
the
never
tunnel.
want to. I
This
never
is
go for
swimming
anything
into
lower
out
than
of
a level
bounds,
11.
So Mario's movement gets cancelled, and he
Okay, this
doesn't
thing
start
actually
swimming
seems
in
really
place.
freaking strong.
So the reason Mario's not
Holy
able
crap.
to jump off of courses like Bob on Battlefield is because you can't move into out of bounds. There's no actual wall triangles on the edges of these courses keeping you in. And for courses with death barriers like Cool Mountain, the reason you can jump off of these courses is because the death barrier itself is made
There's
up
not
of
any
floor
free
triangles.
Pokeballs in
Here's
this
a
town,
zoomed
is
out
there?
view of the whole course.
No, just
So you
oh,
can
there's
see that
no,
the
no,
death
no.
barrier
There's
is
heal.
made up
Oh,
of
but
two
that's only
giant floor
that's.
triangles
It's just
over
saying
the
there's
main
heal
part of
balls
the
in
course.
those
And
in
then
the
here's
mart,
a
not
side view of the two courses.
for free.
So Cool Mountain has a death barrier floor below it, while Bob on Battlefield doesn't. The death barrier creates a safe haven all around the course, making that area habitable. So that's why in Cool Mountain, you can jump off the course and go below it, whereas you can't do that in Bob on Battlefield. Now, it is technically possible to enter out of bounds, but it's even harder to do than entering a ceiling hitbox. Like, our old trick with getting pushed by an object doesn't work in this case, because the game knows not to apply the object push if it would put Mario out of bounds.
Please.
But nevertheless, there are still some ways to do it.
Thank you.
For example, we can enter out of bounds by
I'm not
doing the
settling
leg
for a
grab in
level
this
10.
corner and then climbing up. We can jump into a cork box next to a steep hill. We can have the ground move out from under Mario, which is done here using the merry-go-round.
I hope he doesn't only
And
have
we
normal
can
type
have
moves, because
Chuck
that could be
throw
bad.
Mario out of bounds. As you can see in each of these cases, Mario dies when he goes out of bounds, which is why we give out of bounds the skull and crossbones symbol. But also when this happens, Mario stops having his hat on, though you get it back after you respawn. Now everyone always wonders, why does going out of bounds make Mario lose his hat? Well, let me explain. You see, Mario's logic every frame goes like this.
Oh, frick off, Porygon! You're level 6, why can't I run?
Then it lets Mario
Really?
use action, like say,
This
one
Porygon's
frame
gotta be
walking
really
forwards,
freaking fast.
And finally, it updates his hat state to be how it's supposed
I mean,
to
I'm
be.
not the
It puts him
fastest
happy,
chap in town, but
and
like,
so it's
seriously?
on by the time he gets rendered. So that's what normally happens every frame. But between steps 1 and 2, there's a check. Specifically, it checks if Mario's out of bounds, and if so, then we're done with the function. Don't do the rest of the steps. So let's say Mario's currently out of bounds, and now let's walk through the steps to see what happens. First, it resets his hat state, which makes him have no hat. Then the check ends the whole function since Mario's out of bounds. So we never even get to step 3 where it puts his hat back on, and so we just see Mario without his hat. In other words, we're seeing the intermediate state of things that we're not normally supposed to see.
It's looking like he's only gonna have
now
normal
we
type
the
moves.
4 types of hitboxes: floors, walls, ceilings, and out of bounds. Now
There's
you
the
may have
level 11.
noticed that there's a bit of a similarity between walls, ceilings, and out of bounds, because they all basically block Mario's horizontal movement.
Hey,
So
there we
let's
go.
do a side-by-side comparison. On the left,
I
we'll
love
have Mario
Porygon's
interact with the
footprints, so
wall
funny.
hitbox. In the center, we'll have Mario interact
I
with
got
the
Seed
ceiling
Bomb.
hitbox, and on the right, we'll have Mario
Alright, no
interact
special
with
defense,
out of bounds. And just to clarify
special
the ceiling
attacker.
case,
Oh, wait,
there weren't any
Scrappy?
ceilings that worked well for this visual, but I did find one. See,
Oh
in the
wow,
castle
Scrappy's actually
player, I
perfect for
flipped
this
behind
moveset.
pillar, did a
Actually,
backwards
never
long
mind.
jump, and then used
But
the
it's a-
speed
it's
to
a
flip behind the upstairs key door. Now,
special
opening that door
attacker,
loads a new area. So by clipping behind it, we
with
end up
no
in this
special
sort of
defense.
fake area that you're not meant to be in. There's not many surface
This is a
triangles
weird
here,
mon.
despite what the
I knew
visuals
it was gonna be
say.
fast though.
So that
Ooh, I
means
don't
we
like
can
that
go to the
nature.
edge
That
of the
nature's
floor and push
garbage.
directly on a ceiling hitbox. Specifically, the ceiling of the hallway below that has the boo in it. So I just wanted to clarify that. So now let's compare the 3 cases. If Mario just walks forwards, then in all
This is
3
a weird
cases, he
frickin',
stays in place doing the
Porygon
pushing
scene.
animation. Here's a diagram from above. See, the wall hitbox lets him go into it and then pushes him back out, which makes him be flush with the hitbox. But the ceiling and out of bounds hitboxes just cancel the movement, so he won't even be flush with those hitboxes. But now watch what happens if we try
wow, I
pushing
cannot
an
believe-
angle
I
instead.
genuinely cannot believe that
In
didn't
the
kill
wall
me.
case, we do a sidestepping
Right away.
animation, but in the ceiling and out of bounds cases, we still push.
Thanks for the
but
crap ton
now
of
at an
experience,
angle.
Blissey. Appreciate it.
See, the wall hitbox lets you enter the hitbox at an angle, then pushes you out.
I literally have no idea how
Lets
that
you
didn't
move along
kill.
the edge of
Blissey's
the
special
hitbox.
attack had to have been
But the
like
ceiling and
0 in
out of
order
bounds
for me to live
hitboxes
that.
Still just cancel the movement, so you don't end up moving along their edges. So to recap so far, the pushing animation isn't actually specific to walls. It can happen for ceilings and out of bounds too, though the sidestepping animation is specific to walls. Now let's see what happens when we jump into these 3 hitboxes. For the wall and out of bounds, the jump goes all the way up. But in the ceiling case, the jump goes nowhere.
The
because,
ceiling
like I mentioned
case-
earlier, ceiling hitboxes cut short your upwards trajectory. So in this case, Mario doesn't even leave the ground, he just lands instantly. So in our bullet points, let's add that ceilings are the only one that cancel your upward speed. And just to keep the bullet points lined up, let's add that out of bounds is the only one that kills you. But now let's see what happens if we jump into them, but
I don't think
touch
double
them
team is
until the
banned.
downwards portion of the trajectory. In all three cases, Mario's forwards movement gets
Check
blocked
the
and
rules
so he
real
just
quick.
falls down in place. So just like with the ground movement, the wall lets Mario move into his hitbox and then pushes him back out, while the ceiling and out of bounds cancel the movement altogether. But that's just for jumping at a slow speed. If instead Mario jumps into the hitboxes moving at a medium speed, then in all three cases he does a soft bonk.
Moves,
a bonk
spore
without any star
assist.
particles and Mario stays upright. So let's add
Only
that to our
moves.
notes. And if he jumps into the hitboxes moving at a fast speed, or during certain other actions like a dive or slide kick, then in all three cases he does a hard bonk.
Wait,
which
if
has
starter
star
Pokemon has a
particles
banned
and
move, we
Mario
may use it
falls
live
off
while
his
on
feet.
him.
So let's also add
Alright,
that. But now listen to the sound of each bonk.
Everyone has a banned move, we may use it in live fight only. Oh, I didn't know I could use bad
See,
illegal
when you
moves in
bonk on a ceiling or out of bounds,
the live
it
fight.
makes a sort of
That's good to know.
windy sound
But yeah, no,
effect, while the wall
double team
do
doesn't seem
that.
like it's
And
banned,
so
so.
let's add that to our notes too. So overall, you can see that the three cases are pretty similar. They
Got a
all
nice
let you
amount of
push on
health here.
them, and they all let you bonk on them. So it's easy to see why people might confuse walls, ceilings, and out of bounds. Someone might
Oh,
see Mario
bomb
pushing
us,
and think
no.
he's pushing on a wall, but actually he's pushing on out of bounds. And someone might see Mario bonk and think he bonked on a wall, but actually he bonked on the ceiling. So just keep in mind how similar these three types of hitboxes are. Now, we're almost ready to get to invisible walls, but there's still one more topic we need to cover first, which is positional units. For example, here I'm showing Mario's position on screen, so you can see his X coordinate, Y coordinate, and Z coordinate. Each coordinate represents how far along Mario is on the corresponding axis. The X axis goes east and west.
The
with
special
east
defense
being
might be the
positive
lowest stat I've
direction.
ever seen on
The
a
Y-axis
Pokemon
goes up
in
and down, with
KAIZO
up
IRONMON
being the
history.
positive direction,
10
and the
special defense at level
Z-axis goes
16
north
is
and south,
insane,
with
bro.
south being the positive direction. So take a top-down map of a course. If we
Won't even
zoom
matter
in,
if
we
I'm
can see the grid of individual units.
not weak to
so a single
it.
unit in SM64 is incredibly tiny, only like a centimeter wide, and the extra bold lines are the X and Z axes. Now we're going to analyze what a surface triangle looks like at this scale.
Okay.
I mean, surface triangles are usually way bigger than this, but we're going to be looking at some pretty tiny triangles for now, just so that we can see how certain properties work. Now, as you know, a surface triangle has 3 vertices, but what you may not know is that these 3 vertices have to have integer coordinates. In other words, the vertices always lie on the intersection of a horizontal unit line and a vertical unit line. So a triangle might look like this, or like this, or like this, but it would never look like this because here the vertices aren't at integer coordinates. The reason for this restriction is because triangle vertices are stored as shorts, and a short is a variable type that can only have integer values between negative 32,768 and
Curse.
32,767.
Considering
So
my
it's
defense is
impossible
already
for
really
a
freaking
curse
high
to have a
and
value
my
that isn't an integer.
attack is
So
really
now let's
freaking
consider
low.
this
I
floor
don't
triangle.
see
The
a
question we're
scenario,
gonna be analyzing
a real
is,
scenario
where
where I'm
can
gonna need
Mario
this.
stand on this triangle? You might assume that it would just be this
So
area.
I'm gonna go and say
area
no, I
enclosed
don't want
within the
Chris.
triangle, but that's not right. Let me explain by filling out this little table.
Excellent,
So
just
Mario
good.
himself is at some coordinates, and those coordinates are stored as floats. Floats are another variable type, and they
Dear
basically
Lord.
store real numbers, like numbers that can have decimal components. For example, let's say Mario's at x coordinate 1.34 and z coordinate negative 2.79. But that's not the point that the game checks to see whether it's within the floor triangle or not. Instead, the game first converts those values to another type. Specifically, it converts the coordinates
Oh
to
no, I can't
shorts,
use
and
items
then
anymore,
that's the
guys.
point
What am I
that the
gonna
game checks
do?
to see whether it's within the floor triangle or not. And like I mentioned earlier, shorts can only have integer values, meaning no decimal components. So to convert Mario's coordinates from floats to shorts, the game takes the coordinates and then chops off the decimal components. So it's not rounding, it's truncating. And so to summarize, even though Mario's at 1.34, negative 2.79, the floor detection function first truncates those values to 1, negative 2, and then checks if that new position is within the floor triangle or not. Why does it do that? I guess the programmers thought the
Frick you, that's
calculations
why.
would work out better with shorts
No,
instead of floats, since
no,
floats
that's not
can have
why.
slight rounding errors. But anyway, let me show this on the grid using the same numbers. So Mario's here at x coordinate 1.34 and z coordinate negative 2.79. I'll also add a highlight to Mario's current unit square to make that easier to track. And then for the floor detection point, we can start at Mario's position, but then we have to truncate the decimal components. So for the x coordinate, 1.34 becomes 1, meaning we go to the left edge of Mario's unit square. And for the z coordinate, negative 2.79 becomes negative 2, meaning we go to the bottom edge of the unit square. So in general, the floor detection point will always be on the corner of Mario's unit square closest to the origin. And that
Oh, use
directly
it for
follows
gym.
from the fact that when you remove a number's decimal component, the number will only get closer to 0. So So now if we move Mario around in a continuous way, we can see that the floor detection point moves around in a discrete way. And in all 4 quadrants, the floor detection point is still always on the corner of Mario's unit square closest to the origin. On the other hand, if Mario moves around within a unit square, then the floor
If we can
detection
get
point
tail
doesn't
glow,
even
we
move.
win.
In other words, all
Okay,
the
that's a bit
positions
dramatic.
within
Actually,
the unit
if anything,
square
I'd prefer
use the
Calm
same
Mind
floor
over Tail
detection
Glow.
point, because
To
all
be
the
honest,
positions
wait, hold on. Did I
point
get
to
the item
same
up there?
corner
I think I
closest to
did.
the origin.
Just make sure.
Consequently, we can actually think
Yeah,
of the
oh
corner
yeah,
closest
okay. I
to
think
the origin
I
as
think
the
those are good.
representative
You know,
of the
actually, no,
whole
I prefer
unit
Calm
square.
Mind.
So
Dude,
whatever
Calm Mind
floor
double
status
team.
the representative
That'd be a
point
pretty good
has will
combo
the
right there.
floor status for all the points within the unit square. So if the representative point is a floor, then the whole unit square is considered floor. If the representative point is out of bounds, then the whole unit square is considered out of bounds. And spoiler from the future, if the representative point is a ceiling, then the whole unit square is considered ceiling. I'll demonstrate this principle with the floor triangle from earlier. We were trying to figure out where Mario can stand on
I'm not
this
gonna skip it.
triangle, and I said it was not just the
I'm gonna play
area
it.
inside the triangle.
The
So
worse my
let's look at some
Pokemon,
points
usually
in
the
triangle's
riskier I
edge.
play it.
If Mario's within
Yeah,
this unit
I don't really
square,
care about
then
dying
this is
there.
the floor detection point,
Because that thing wasn't gonna
aka
win.
the representative point for the whole unit square. The representative point is not within
Should
the
always
floor
play
triangle,
risky if
so I'll make it
the
gray
you
to
should
indicate no
the
floor.
worse your Pokemon is, the
I'll also
riskier you
put a
should always
little
play
arrow from the
because you're probably not gonna
representative
win
point to the
anyway.
unit square, just so that
So it's
there's
like
no
you might as well
confusion about which
try to
unit
go for the
square
high
is
risk,
the
high reward kind of a
representative
thing.
And note that because the representative point is always on the corner of the unit square closest to the origin, the arrow pointing from the representative point to the unit square will always be facing away from the origin. But anyway, since the representative point is gray to indicate no floor, we can color the whole unit square gray to indicate no floor. So even if Mario were here, which looks like it's inside the floor triangle, it would still count as being outside the triangle since this whole unit square is
I get a lot of
considered
Pokemon
outside the
flamethrowers.
triangle. On the other hand, if Mario's within this unit square, then this is the representative point. This time, the representative point is within the floor triangle, so I'll make it blue to indicate floor. And then I'll put
Legal
the arrow
moves are
again,
available,
and now,
or
since the
like
representative
allowed to be
point
used in
is
the lab.
blue to
So
indicate
I'm gonna
floor,
lose.
we can color the whole unit
I
square
haven't.
blue to indicate floor. So even if Mario were here, which looks like it's outside the floor triangle, it would still count as being inside the triangle since this whole
Bro's
unit
got
square is
Rest
considered
and
inside the
Moonlight.
triangle. So going back
course
to
you
the
do.
whole triangle, the simplest way to determine where Mario can stand on it is the following
Don't use
process.
Rust when you wake up, you
First,
son of a
mark all integer
jerk.
points that are
You-
within the triangle, including on the
He's gonna
triangle
literally- he's
boundaries,
literally gonna
and
PP
put the
stall me.
arrows facing away from the origin to indicate which unit squares are being represented, and finally fill in those unit squares. And so now we can see the exact
Okay, maybe not.
area where Mario can stand on his triangle. So the floor detection area isn't a perfect triangle, but more like a pixelated approximation of a triangle. And because it's pixelated, we get some interesting properties. For example, if the edge of a floor triangle is cardinally aligned, like it's exactly horizontal or exactly vertical, then the edge of the floor detection area will be a straight line. More specifically, if it's an edge that
Burgess is
faces
next move at
towards
level
the
47. That's
origin,
not too
then
far
the
away.
floor detection edge will coincide with the triangle edge. And if it's an edge that faces away from the origin, then the floor detection edge will be 1 unit offset from the triangle edge. On the other hand, if the triangle's edge is not cardinally aligned, like it's on a diagonal, then the floor detection edge will be jagged. Separately, note that ceiling detection works in exactly the same way as floor detection, since it also converts Mario's coordinates from floats to shorts. So all the insight we just gained about floors also applies to ceilings, like with the representative points and how the ceiling detection area is really just a pixelated approximation of the ceiling triangle. And before we move on, I have one more note about the representative points. So in general, an integer point is the representative for just 1 unit square, which is the unit square away from the origin. But for integer points on the x-axis and
Gluttony
z-axis,
actually makes a lot of
they're
sense
each
for
the
Victor Bells.
representative for 2 unit squares, and the origin itself is the representative for 4 unit squares. So I just wanted to clarify that. And so now, we're finally ready to start talking about invisible walls and what they are. But how can we answer what they are without knowing what they are? In other words, what do we even mean when we say invisible walls? How should we define them? Because we can't find examples of them to analyze unless we know what actually qualifies as an invisible wall. So let's break it down. The term invisible wall has 2 parts to it, invisible and wall. To satisfy being invisible, we just have to not be able to see it. For example, this would count as an invisible wall because I don't see anything there. However, this would not count as an invisible wall because I can clearly see the wall there. And then to satisfy being a wall, you'd think I'd say it has to be a wall. But think about it, a casual player can't see specific triangles and their classifications. Instead, a casual player would just go by what it seems like is happening. After all, they say if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So if we apply that principle here, we'd say if you can push on it like a wall and bonk on it like a wall, it's a wall. At least it would seem that way to a casual player. So based on all that, our definition of invisible walls will be any space that's pushable and bonkable but has no visible texture. Now remember our discussion from earlier? We established that walls, ceilings, and out of bounds are all pushable and all bonkable. So really, an instance of any one of these 3 hitboxes could be labeled as an invisible wall, so long as there's no texture associated with it. Now, surface triangles usually have textures, so a wall could only count as an invisible wall if the programmers didn't put a texture for it. A ceiling could count as an invisible wall if you hit its upper hitbox, since that's so far away from the ceiling texture
Actually might
that
kill
it would
me.
just seem like a separate thing that's invisible. And then out of bounds would always count as an invisible wall, since it's a hitbox with no surface triangles, and so it has no
okay.
textures.
Chill
So
out,
those are the 3
Spiritomb.
things that can count as invisible
Frick.
walls. But from there, I've further broken it down.
Yeah,
into 3
Spiritom's
causes of
catch rate's
invisible
pretty
walls.
annoying.
3 of them are pretty straightforward, 4 of them are a little more involved, and the last one, well, let's just say it's the final boss of the causes. But instead of thinking about them like this, you know, 8 items in a row, we're instead gonna think about them like this, with 4 items on the left, all separate, and 4 items on the right in a 2x2 table, like a Punnett square. So I basically created the periodic table of elements, but for invisible walls. And we're gonna spend the rest of the video filling it out. Like, for each cause, I'll explain how it works and we'll look at examples. So, let's dive into the first cause of invisible walls, which has to do with wall triangles. See, most
Fat's
wall
actually pretty good for
triangles have a
PepePls.
texture, but surface triangles and graphics triangles are 2 completely separate things in the game. Surface triangles have hitboxes that affect Mario, like we've talked about, and graphics triangles are purely visual. Now for the most part, the programmers made it so that every surface triangle has a corresponding graphics triangle, but there are some exceptions, and so if there's a wall triangle with no corresponding texture, then that would count as an invisible wall. So let's look at some examples. In the hallway leading up to Bowser in the Dark World, there's an invisible wall right after the trapdoor. Obviously it was put there because this whole hallway is a trap and you're not actually meant to get to the
Iron Man runs, yes sir, yes
There's an
sir.
invisible wall in the water all along the edge of the course. So this is a
Decided
rare case
to-
when there
I
actually
wanted to
is
lose my
wall
mind a
at
little
the
bit
edge
more
of the
today.
course instead of just out of bounds. Now if you
I don't like
remember,
that same
when you
person.
swim into out of bounds, Mario's movement gets cancelled and so you're just kind of stuck there until you turn all the way around. The programmers obviously didn't
7
like that
speed, no
behavior,
thank you.
so they added a wall here so that you can swim along the edge instead of getting stuck. Because remember, walls let you move along.
Outspeed?
Them, but out of bounds cancels
How the
your
frick do I
movement.
outspeed?
And
I have
note that
7
this wall is
speed
also
and am
present
3
in the
levels
tiny
lower than
version
him.
of the island. Then
The
in
frick?
Slide in Tall Tall Mountain, there's an invisible wall in the shape of a little rectangle at the top of the end of the first tunnel.
I'm gonna die
so you
here.
might be wondering why that's there. Well, based on footage of the game's
Oh, wow, I
beta,
didn't.
we can actually conclude that this is a remnant.
Well, I
of the
definitely
left
should
turn
not have
sign
won that
used
fight.
to be in that spot.
Alright.
It's kind of blurry, but it's there alright. So that means at some
Sketch.
point, the programmers removed the graphics for the left turn sign, but
kinda
accidentally
depends.
left in the collision. Also in the Tall Tall Mountain slide, if you head the wrong way and go down the dead end path, you can see that they put a big invisible wall here. This is so that you can't fall off from here.
Not gonna lie, I
and
kind of
land
want
on the later part of the
to
slide.
friendship. I
Instead,
kind of want to
they
evolve
wanted
this
you
thing
to plummet
actually.
to your death. But since now we can see the
I'm not
exact
gonna lie, I
edges of
kind of
this
want to
big
evolve
wall,
it.
we can actually just navigate around it and
Did I?
land on the later part of the slide.
I don't know.
In fact, here I've landed on a part after the loading zone, so the rest of the slide isn't even loaded. And so if I
The
continue
real question
ahead,
is,
I just
can
fall
I?
off and die. Then in Big Boo's
I
Haunt,
don't
there's an
know.
invisible wall above the center of the merry-go-round. It's like a little column sticking right out of the pyramid. See,
There's
the
a-
camera in this room is normally situated
Evolutions
right in the center
take a
above
lot
the
of time
pyramid,
to
and they wanted to
dedicate
prevent
to.
you from going through that spot.
I
since
don't
that could
know.
cause the camera to turn
The only
really
reason I'm
fast.
kind of tempted
But if we
to evolve this
check
thing
to
is
remove
because
that
it's
invisible wall column, we can see exactly what they were
it's
trying
got
to
good
prevent. See,
a
the
good
camera does a
moveset.
180 in 2 frames, which probably isn't the best user experience. Then in Bowser and the Fire Sea, there are some invisible walls right after the funnel at the end. These were put there so that you don't accidentally jump over the funnel and fall down, because then you'd basically have to redo the whole level. But also, there are some invisible walls under the funnel to make sure you can't touch the ending trigger from the side.
Let me at least see if
And
I can.
finally, in Womp's Fortress, there's actually a big invisible wall right under the course. So why'd they put this one here? Well, it actually has to do with the water that's in the level. Let me give you a quick rundown on water.
It's
So
only
here's
level
the
3
side
spell
view
run.
of a surface of water. Note that I'm making
Alright.
it purple because blue is already taken by floors.
Come on to
So there
Bell.
are 2 important things to understand
This
about
video's
water.
actually pretty good though.
First, the hitbox of water extends from the water surface to infinitely
Alright,
downwards. Like,
yeah,
they never
I
programmed
mean-
water hitboxes to have a bottom. And second, whenever Mario enters a water hitbox, his height gets set to just under the water's surface and he goes into the swimming action.
I'll beat the
Now,
first
normally,
trainer
you wouldn't
first.
notice
The first
that
2
because
trainers
they're
actually.
only meant to
If I can
enter
beat the
water
first 2
hitboxes from
trainers,
the top, which means
then
you'll
I
already be near
will
the water surface when your height gets set to near the
frick.
water's surface.
If I can
So
beat
in
the first
this
2
case,
trainers, then
this
I
height
will
change doesn't have
try
a
to
very
friendship
noticeable
evolve it.
effect. But there are some ways to enter water from the side, in which case you can get a huge upwarp to the water's surface. For example, in Tall Tall Mountain, you can clip through this wall into the water behind it. And from there, if you go
Have you heard of the
forwards,
channel
you
The
can enter the
Theorizer?
hitbox
I
of
have
the water
not.
higher up in the level, causing you to upwarp to that water. And
Frick,
similarly,
so close.
in Tiny Huge Island,
Please be able to
we clip
run.
into the mountain, and then we upwarp to the top of the water that's in the mountain. So going back to Womp's Fortress, the reason for this invisible wall is to prevent you from entering the water hitbox from the side. But they made a little oversight, because to the right of this invisible wall, there's a gap. So you actually
Ball
can
can't
enter
miss.
the water hitbox after all, and get the
I'm
upwarp,
screwed.
which makes for a nice party trick. In
Well,
fact, you can say to your friends,
Yeah, I
"Hey,
knew it was a
$10
stretch,
that
but that's
can
why I
jump off
wanted
the
to
edge
do
and
the
survive."
trainers first
Easy way
before
to
I
make money.
dedicate all that
So yeah,
time. Because
that's
if
the
I
first
dedicated
cause
all
of
that time into
invisible walls,
evolvement with
which we're gonna
friendship, I
call
would have just
wall
lost
with
there,
no
and that would have just
texture.
been a bunch of
Now
wasted
let's look at
time.
the second cause, which has to do with
Oh.
ceilings. Remember, I said ceilings usually come in one of two forms: the top of an enclosed room or the bottom of an enclosed structure. I also said that the upper part of a ceiling hitbox is so far away from the ceiling texture that it just seems like its own separate hitbox that's invisible. So in these two cases, that would be above the enclosed room and
Alright,
inside
I'm
the
migging.
enclosed structure. These two areas are meant to be out of reach, but there are ways to interact with them, which we'd count as interacting with an invisible wall. So let's look at some examples, starting with getting above rooms. Like we
True
saw
one.
earlier, in Wet Dry World, you can use Chuckia to clip
Nice.
into the space above the tunnel, which is an upper ceiling
OT.
hitbox. If we bonk in there, our angle actually gets reflected
Very
every
interesting.
frame, because when Mario's in the bonk
Ouch!
action,
I
he's
actually
programmed
survived
to
that.
reflect off of ceilings and out of
Not that it,
bounds.
like,
Since
freaking
here,
matters. If
Mario's
I went with
surrounded
bounce,
by
I actually
ceiling
probably would've won.
hitbox, he just gets continuously reflected, which looks pretty silly. In Hazy Maze Cave, it's actually possible to glitch this moving platform out of bounds. And so then, we can have the platform move out from under Mario while he's in the air, and so he ends up in the ceiling hitbox above a room down below. In the castle foyer, like we saw earlier, you can clip inside this pillar, and so then you're able to push on the ceiling hitbox of the area below. You know, the area with the stairs that go down to the basement. And also, like we saw, you can backwards long jump and end up behind the upstairs key door, and that lets you push on the ceiling hitbox above the boo hallway. Now let's look at getting inside enclosed structures. In Jolly Roger Bay, it's possible to clip inside the floating ship.
Cacnea.
The whole inside is ceiling hitbox. And in
Those
Rainbow
got
Ride,
no
you can use a
speed,
bob-omb
no
to clip
special
inside
tank.
one of these glass blocks. And of course, their whole inside is ceiling hitbox too. So those are some examples of getting above a room
I
and
got
inside
paralyzed
an
him, let's
enclosed
go.
structure. But there's a third case that can happen, and that's if we have something that should be an enclosed structure, but doesn't have a floor on top. In that case, the ceiling hitbox would just continue to propagate upwards unimpeded. In theory, this
Look at that,
should
I
never
have
happen
6
in the game,
speed, bro.
but does it? Well, in the Tall Tall Mountain
I'm not
side,
gonna be able
we
to
have
run
these
from
three arches.
anything.
And let me make the background white so that it's easier to see. So let's look at the first arch. On its underside, we have some ceiling triangles, and on the top side, we have some floor triangles. So no problems here. But now let's look at the second arch. On the bottom, we have some ceiling triangles, and on the top, there are no floor triangles. The programmers just didn't put any. So that means the ceiling hitbox isn't covered by any floors, and so it just propagates upwards without anything to contain it. And what about the third arch? On the bottom, we have some ceiling triangles, and on the top, there are once again no floor triangles. So on this arch too, the ceiling hitbox just leaks out into the space above. And so basically, if you've ever tried to jump over the second or third arch, you'll have found that you're unable to, because Mario just bonks on the ceiling hitboxes. We call these exposed ceiling hitboxes, because unlike normal ones that are contained, these ones are just right out in the open, they're exposed. And then there's actually a fourth case for ceilings, which is a ceiling that's all by itself. Not the top of a room, not the bottom of an enclosed structure, but just a ceiling.
Oh, I
in
did not
isolation.
expect to be able
This
to run
hitbox
away
would
from
also
anything.
propagate upwards unimpeded. Surely the programmers never did that, right? Well, in Cool Cool Mountain, we have this bridge near the red coin star. At the end of the bridge are these two flags on the sides. These were clearly meant to be
I'm not
but they're
tired.
actually ceilings since they're angled slightly downwards. And because the programmers didn't expect these surfaces to be ceilings, they didn't put any floors to cover them. So the ceiling hitboxes just rise upwards without anything to stop them, meaning that this is another case of exposed ceiling hitboxes. So watch out if you're ever playing around near these two flaps. So yeah, that's the second cause of invisible walls, which we're gonna call above ceiling
Nasty
below
plot?
any floor. Because if there's no floor above the ceiling, then the whole area above the ceiling is bonkable.
Please be
And
really
if there
good.
is a floor above the ceiling, then only the area between them is bonkable. So now let's look at the third cause, which has to do
Oh,
with
you have
bounds.
no
If you remember
special
from earlier, all
moves.
courses are surrounded
No.
by out of bounds, even if they have a death barrier. And that out of bounds is an invisible hitbox. that
Okay,
you
hold on,
can
it's
walk
fine.
on,
He
so
could
it counts
get
as an
special
invisible
moves.
wall. So if the course doesn't have a death barrier, then the out of bounds area will just be on the edge of the ground. And if the course does have a death barrier, then the out of bounds area will
screw it,
be
let's
at
just
the
try to
edge
run
of
it.
the death barrier, which you can reach if you jump far enough. So that's the third cause of invisible walls, which we're going to call out
Alright,
of bounds.
let's see if
on
I
the court's
outspeed.
edge. And so
I
those
do
are the
not.
first three causes, which I said were pretty straightforward.
Oh wow, crit.
And that's because they directly
Probably mattered.
correspond to the three hitboxes we talked about earlier.
Frick you.
Walls, ceilings, and out of bounds. So think of these three causes as the simple, basic implementations of those three hitboxes. The remaining causes are more advanced implementations. So let's get to those ones now by next looking at the Punnett square. Specifically, let's look at the fourth cause. Like I said, these causes are more complex. So instead of me saying the cause outright, we're going to build up to it with examples so that you get some intuition. So imagine a structure like this. It's a staircase with 2 steps. Now let's look at this structure from above. Not just like this, but also on a unit grid, which looks like this. So there's a floor rectangle on the bottom representing the lower step, and a floor rectangle on the top representing the upper step. Now I have 2 clarifications to make.
There's a lot of power in that.
Rectangle is just 2 floor triangles together that form a rectangle. Like we could
bag.
analyze this situation on the triangle level, but it's simpler to just pair up the triangles into rectangles and analyze the situation on the rectangle level. So that's what we're gonna do. And second, even though we're looking at the same shape on the left and the right, they're at different scales.
Yeah, there's literally
The
no way
3D
we
shape
win this.
on the left is at a normal scale that you'd find in the game, like hundreds of units wide, while the shape on the right is
It would take
really
literally
tiny,
nothing short of a
like
miracle
less than 10 units
in
wide.
order to win
I
this
made
fight.
it really tiny so that it's easier to see individual units. So for example, if we rotate the 2 shapes, the one on the left will stay normal looking, but the one on the right will deform, because remember, all the vertices still have to have integer coordinates, which has a big effect at this scale. Now on the right side, the structure looks like 2 floor rectangles
Wow,
with a seam.
PeepoClap actually replaced
the
the barrel
left
for
side,
the
structure
Pokemon I
also
listed the
looks
most.
like 2 floor rectangles with a seam in between. Though if we
Oh,
look at
I
the
seem
structure
like
from the
I'm
side,
less
we can see
bad
that
now, I
there's a
guess.
whole wall on that seam, which causes the floors on both sides of the seam to be at different heights. So on one side of the seam, we have the floor edge at the bottom of the wall, which is the north edge of the lower step, and on the other side of the seam, we have the floor edge at the top of the wall, which is the south edge of the upper step. The question we're going to be analyzing is, are there any gaps between these 2 edges on the unit grid? And in this case, the answer is no, there are no gaps. The lower step's edge and the upper step's edge are exactly flush because they have the same lateral coordinates, so there are no gaps between them. Now if the floors were separated like this, then there'd be a gap, but for now, there is no gap. So let's clear that, put the structure back to a top-down view, and now we're going to rotate it to see if that causes any gaps between the edges. Now even though the 2 edges are changing coordinates, they remain exactly in sync. So for example, at this angle, there are still no gaps between the 2 edges, since they still have the exact same lateral coordinates. So let's rotate the structure back to its starting angle, and now we're going to change the structure itself. You see that upper step? I've now split it into 2 steps, and you can see this change reflected on the unit grid. So again, let's think about the edges that make up the seam between the lower step and the upper steps, or in other words, the edges at the bottom of the wall versus the edges at the top of the wall. This time, that would be the north edge of the lower step, the south edge of the upper left step, and the south edge of the upper right step. Same question, are there any gaps between them on the unit grid? The answer is no, but the reasoning is a little different this time, because now there aren't just 2 edges with the same lateral coordinates. Instead, there are 3 edges, a long edge and 2 short edges. And notice that the 2 short edges connect at a point that lies exactly on the bigger edge. Because of that, we're going to call that point an edge vertex. In general, we'll define an edge vertex as a triangle vertex that's intended to lie laterally on another triangle's edge. So it's not meant to coincide with the other triangle's vertices, but instead be somewhere in the middle of the triangle's edge. And it doesn't have to lie exactly on the edge, but just be intended to lie on the edge. So in theory, it could miss by a little. Now going back to the structure, we can see that the edge vertex here does lie exactly on the bigger edge. And because of that, there are no gaps between the bigger edge and the 2 smaller edges. In the 3D view on the left, that means that this edge vertex is laterally aligned with this edge. And just to clarify, I could mark
Watch me
the edge
lose here
vertex
to a one-shot
here
move.
or here. It doesn't really matter because those 2 points are basically
Wow.
guaranteed to line up with each other. So laterally, they're like the same point. So going forward, we'll consider them to be the same edge vertex, and I'll only be marking one of them.
I don't like
Okay,
this
so let's
Pokemon. Too
clear
bad it
all
takes
that,
too long
put
to
the structure
evolve.
back to a top-down view, and now let's rotate it again. This time, you may notice something funky is going on with the edge vertex on the
Play
unit
that
grid.
funky
So let's stop it here.
music,
And
white
same question,
boy.
are there any gaps between the edges? Interestingly, in this case, there is a gap. And that's because the edge vertex is no longer exactly on the lower edge. And how could it be? Because remember, triangle vertices must have integer coordinates, but there are no integer coordinates that lie exactly on the lower edge. Earlier, when the structure was cardinally aligned, it was easy to find an integer coordinate exactly on the edge because the edge went through so many. But now, since we're at a weird angle, the edge doesn't go through any integer coordinates, and so it's literally impossible for the edge vertex to lie on the edge. Instead, it just has to pick integer coordinates that are close to the edge. That means there are two cases. Case 1, the edge vertex overshoots and causes the floors to overlap. Floors overlapping like this is perfectly fine and won't cause any invisible walls. And then case 2, the edge vertex undershoots and causes a gap between the floors. And when there's a gap like this, then we have some problems. Remember, the triangle area itself doesn't represent where Mario can stand. Instead,
I didn't
we have a little
freaking go.
process for figuring that out, so let's do that
Next
again.
my game
here.
back up.
First, we mark all integer points that are within the floor.
Not that I
or
don't
on
think
the
it
floor
mattered, but-
bounds. Then add the arrows, and finally, fill in the unit squares. Now you can see the issue. There are two integer points that aren't inside any floors. Consequently, their unit squares are not considered to be floor.
Well, that
Instead,
could be
we
good.
call them floor
I'm level
gaps.
6 though.
And so basically, any structure that resembles this could have floor gaps. Instead of this, it could look like this, or like this, or like this. It doesn't take very much. You just need a seam between floors, usually with a wall in it, and for the floor edges on either side of the seam to be subdivided differently. That causes there to be an edge vertex, which as we discussed is a vertex meant to lie on another triangle's edge. Specifically, a triangle on the other side of the seam. But if the structure is at a weird
Well,
angle,
glad I found a
then the
level
edge
3
vertex might
arm,
be
although that means we
misaligned
can
from
at least
the
find a level
edge, causing
6,
there to be floor
guaranteed.
gaps. So to recap, we looked at 4 scenarios, whether there was no edge vertex or there was an edge vertex, and whether the structure was cardinally aligned or at a weird angle. And only when there was an edge
Hey,
vertex at a weird
Porygon,
angle
bow,
did we get floor
down.
gaps. So those are the two main ingredients. Now I think it would also be useful to look at floor gaps from the side. So let's take this structure, put it sideways, and now take the
Oregon's
cross-section
technically
of the
legal for
steps. And to
beach
make
power.
this easier to work with, I'm going to make the wall a little taller and extend the floors. Now as we
The
saw
tall
in the
little
previous
waller.
demonstration, there's some
Brr.
geometry that can cause these 2 points to be misaligned, meaning that the wall triangle can end up slanted. So what we're going to do here is look
Holy
at 5
glass
different
cannon, what
alignments
the
of the
frick?
upper point in order to
Horrible
examine
moveset
5
though, what
different
the heck,
slants of
man.
the wall triangle. The 5 slants are leaning very far back, leaning a little back, perfectly vertical, leaning
I'll
a
try to run
little
it for the.
forwards, and
Let's
leaning
just see how
very
it does against the first
We're
trainer,
gonna
and
see
then we'll go
which
from there.
ones cause
Cause
there to be floor gaps and what
first one,
happens in
dude.
those cases. So let's
Let's
start
do
with
it,
perfectly
dude.
vertical. In
Those.
this case, the 2 floors are exactly flush. Now for each case,
like,
we're going to
okay.
see what happens when we show the out of bounds area.
just want to see what move I'm
First,
gonna get
let's
at
add
level
the floor
7.
boxes,
I can always
and then
still
let's let the out of bounds area propagate upwards to see where it fills. In this case, the floors cover all of the out of bounds, which means all the area above is habitable. So I'll give this case a happy face. Then next, let's look at leaning very far back. Interestingly, when the wall triangle is this slanted, it actually gets classified as a ceiling. And this happens in the game. There are triangles that are meant to be walls, but are just a little too slanted, and so they're actually ceilings. For example, in Cool Cool Mountain, there's this ceiling. So even though it looks like a wall,
Buster
you can't kick on it
Purge.
or do any other
Of course, it's
wall
not a move that,
interactions with it. And then in Rainbow Ride, there's this
can
ceiling.
hit ghosts.
It's meant to be part of the big house
Or
wall,
they can hit
but
dark
because it's
types.
just a little too slanted, it's actually
That
a
would've been
ceiling.
ideal.
So we'll call these wall-like ceilings because they're ceilings that look like walls and are meant to be walls. So going back to our
I like this thing.
demonstration,
It's just
let's
its
see what happens
moveset's.
when we show the hitboxes again. Like before, the floors still cover all of the out of bounds. In fact, we have some floor overlap in the middle, so there's floor to spare. So this case gets a happy face.
Dive's
Then
physical. Let's
next,
go for Skull
look at
Bash here.
leaning a little back. Here, the wall triangle is still a wall, just a slightly leaning wall. If we show the hitboxes again, we can see that the floors still cover all of the out of bounds, with a little bit of floor
I'm gonna
to
read
spare.
the,
So this case gets a happy
text here.
face. Though, one big caveat here.
Dry's
is
gonna
that
be
this
die.
angle
Oh
is
wait,
not
does that mean I'm
steady.
a?
In reality, walls can only tilt about this much while still being a wall.
Does that mean
If
I'm
you want the
immune
arrows
to
be
water
more
type? Wow, that
triangles
means I only have 2
together.
weaknesses
So in
then.
these visuals, we're just gonna pretend.
Alright,
that
never
walls
mind, the
can tilt
ability's
this
better than
much
I
and
thought it
still be
was.
a wall for the sake of convenience. Then next, let's skip ahead and look at leaning very far forwards. Now the wall triangle is so slanted the other way that it gets classified as a floor. And this happens in the game too. For example, in Bob on Battlefield, the side of this third step has a floor triangle that's meant to be a wall. But because it's a floor, you can walk on it and slide on it. In Bowser in the Dark World, the side of this little bridge has a floor triangle. In Bowser in the Fire Sea, the side of this platform has floor triangles. And in the Castle Courtyard, the side of this structure has a floor triangle. So for these ones, we'll call them wall-like floors. But what effect does this have in our demonstration? Well, first let's show the floor hitboxes. You can see that the original 2 floors are
Spell
now
tag
separated.
TAG. Oh, I did
But
it.
luckily, this new floor covers the area in between. So
I have
if
a
we show
problem.
the out of bounds area, we can see that the 3 floors together cover all of the out of bounds. So this case gets a happy face. And then finally, let's look at leaning a little forwards. Here, the wall triangle is still a wall, just a slightly leaning wall. Now let's show the floor hitboxes.
A pizza,
The
no.
two original floors are still separated a bit, but now there's no third floor to cover the area in between. All we have is a wall there, but walls don't cover out of bounds. It's like the wall took on the responsibility of a floor, but doesn't actually have the powers of a floor. And so if we show the out of bounds area, we can see that a tiny sliver of out of bounds leaks through the leaning wall. And that sliver of out of bounds would be classified as an invisible wall. This type of invisible wall has caused a lot of frustration over the years. Like, think about this kind of invisible wall compared to the previous 3 causes that we looked at. These 3 causes aren't actually that annoying. For the walls with no texture, those are put there intentionally to prevent you from going to places that you're not supposed to go to. So they don't really get in the way when you're going to places that you are supposed to go to. For the ceiling hitboxes, those are mainly just above rooms and inside enclosed structures, which are places that you don't normally interact with. Well, aside from the arches in the Tall Mountain Slide and the bridge flaps in Cool Mountain, those ones can get in your way. And then for out of bounds,
I don't have. Oh, I forgot to get the free potion. Crap.
And it's not like they're in the way because they're only
Oh,
on
I
the
might
edges
lose because of the.
course. But for
Yep.
this most recent type
Wait,
of
maybe
invisible
not.
wall, it's just in the middle of the course
No.
out in the open.
I lost
And
because I
on
didn't get the free
path that
potion.
you're supposed
Frick
to
off.
use, so you might just bonk on it out of
I can't
nowhere.
believe I forgot to get. That's the first time I've ever forgotten to get the free
Along with
potion.
The rest that we're gonna cover are in some sense the real.
I haven't lost the end of trainer
because
school
they're
in
the
like.
ones that frustrate players and give a
Well,
bad
I don't
name to
know
invisible
since I started back
walls. So I'm gonna
at
give
least
this case
a
an
while.
angry phase. So to summarize, we looked at 5 possible slants of the wall triangle.
But I like almost
and
never
only a
lose in
wall
the trainer
that's leaning
school.
slightly
I can't
forwards
believe I
causes there to
forgot
be
the
a
free
floor gap
potion,
that
man.
lets out of bounds leak
I was just
through.
worried because
When
the
you
Pokemon I
move
had
the
before
vertex
Tangrowth
around
was a little.
continuously, you can see that it's only a very narrow range that lets
Tangrowth.
the out of bounds
Or-
leak through. Basically,
whatever,
the
never
wall
mind.
triangle has to be leaning forward so that there's a gap between the lower floor and upper floor, but the wall can't be leaning too far forwards or else it acts as a floor that covers that gap. Now I think it would also be useful to see what each of these 5 cases looks like from a top-down view. When the wall leans very far back, the floors overlap. You
Yeah,
can tell
I
because
just
the
knew I was
overlap
gonna win that.
area is an extra dark shade of blue.
Well, it kinda sucks
When the
that,
wall leans a little back,
Armaldo
there's
had
still a floor
potential.
overlap, but a bit smaller
I wanted
in
to see how
area.
far
When the
it
wall's
could
perfectly
get.
vertical, there's no floor overlap or floor gap. The whole thing is just a uniform shade of blue. When the wall leans a little forwards, now there's a floor gap. You can tell because there's some white in the middle of all the blue. And remember, that white area is actually covered by the wall triangle, but that doesn't really do anything. And finally, when the wall leans very far forwards, then the wall turns into a floor which covers the gap. So yeah, it's only the one case that causes floor gaps. But
Holy attack
interestingly,
stat, dude.
floor gaps don't necessarily cause invisible walls. See, there are actually 3 cases for what effect a floor gap has because it depends on what's below the floor gap. Case 1, there's another floor below
Alright,
the
we'll
floor
run it.
gap. In this case, Mario can freely jump over the floor gap and not hit any invisible walls.
Try to run
You
it.
can also go into the floor gap and fall through to the floor below, assuming there are no wall hitboxes in the way. Then case 2, there are no floors below the floor gap. Like we saw a second ago,
'Cause
this
it's
lets a
rare to
tiny
find
sliver
Pokemon with
of
such
out of
high
bounds
attack
leak
stat.
through. If Mario jumps into that sliver, he'll bonk, and if he walks into it,
Not
he'll
gonna
push.
forget
And
the
then
freaking
case
free
3,
potion this
there's a
time.
ceiling below the floor gap. This ceiling has a lower hitbox, but we don't care about that.
Poison Heal's
It's
pretty
the
good,
upper
too.
hitbox that causes a tiny sliver of ceiling to leak through.
At least I don't
This
have to
would
worry
also
as much
count
about
as an exposed
poison.
ceiling
At least
hitbox.
inside a
And
battle.
just like the
Outside a
sliver
battle,
out of bounds, the
I-
sliver of ceiling lets us
Still
bonk
sucks.
on it and lets us push on it. So it's only case 2.
Not as
and
bad
case
as in
3 that
Furlg,
cause
though.
invisible
At least I can't
walls.
die outside
Now,
a
if you
battle,
ever
but-
encounter an invisible
In
wall
fact,
like
the
this,
strategy
it might
might
not
to
be
beware
obvious whether
off
it's
the
from out of
poison
bounds or from a ceiling. Since you know
in this game.
invisible walls are invisible, so in the game we wouldn't see the hitbox colors that I'm showing here. But remember,
Well, that's
only
not entirely
ceilings cut
true.
short your upwards trajectory.
Not
So
entirely
a simple
true.
way to distinguish between these two
Yeah, poison
cases
heal,
is
you
to jump up into
don't
the
really
invisible
need
wall.
to, I
If
guess,
it lets
but-
you jump up, then it's out of bounds, and if it stops you from jumping up, then it's a ceiling. So let's look at an example. In Bob on Battlefield, there's this wall on a floor scene. Here are the floor edges on both sides of the seam, which are subdivided differently due to the steps. And based on those, here are the edge vertices.
Ultra
Now you
Ball.
may be wondering why it looks like I'm showing the same thing on the left and the right. Well, they're actually different camera modes. See, the one on the left is a perspective view, meaning that things get smaller as they go farther away from the camera. So it's like the normal camera mode that you'd see in the game. In contrast, the one on the right is an orthographic view, meaning that things stay the same size regardless of how far away from the camera they are. This orthographic view is useful because it allows us to have a nice looking top-down view. So
It's a
next,
speed
let's
tab,
show
we're gonna
all
have to use our
the courses
potion
for
here.
triangles, and now we're gonna zoom in on each edge vertex to see how it
Ow,
misses
I
its
just
edge.
freaking-
Like, does it cause a floor
I hurt
overlap
myself so
or a
bad.
floor gap?
Ow.
The way this one misses is by causing a floor
Real
gap,
life.
because you can
Mind
see the white
reader?
area between the floors. Then for the next edge vertex, it also causes a floor gap. And for the last one, this one's a little weird. See, the bottom of the step and the top of the step don't actually
Yeah,
line
Hydro
up,
Cannon.
even though they were meant to. That's what
Mind
actually
reader
causes
hypnosis
the
could
side
be
of that
pretty
third
good.
step to be a floor instead of a wall, like we saw before. But anyway, this just means we have 2 edge
I might
vertices
regret
to
that.
look at instead
Probably
of
will,
one,
but
and they both cause floor gaps. So let's zoom out a little, and now you can see that there are integer coordinates that lie in the white
Man, that
area
hurt.
between floors, meaning that those points are out of bounds. Now let's remove the triangle fill color so that we can mark which unit squares are out of bounds. For each of those integer coordinates, let's add the arrow facing away from the origin, and then fill in those unit squares with gray for out of bounds. And now let's pan across the seams so that we can see all of the unit squares of out of bounds. So each of the unit squares on the right represents a little sliver of out of bounds that leaks through the leaning wall. And as we're panning on the right, I'm adding these slivers on the left so that you can see them in 3D. They're basically square columns that are 1 unit wide, though I'm drawing them each just 1 pixel wide because that's what's easiest to see. So that's the whole seam. Interestingly, there's one point near the middle of the seam that lies on the x-axis. So that point has 2 arrows and causes 2 unit squares of invisible wall. So yeah, that's how the out of bounds units are distributed along the seam. On the left, if we zoom in a bit, you can see the 2 unit columns in the middle that are extra close together, since they're both from that point on the x-axis.
I probably would have died there.
If we step back a little, you can see just how high up this invisible wall goes.
Mega punch. Oh my gosh, that stab. That's amazing.
At a height of 32,768. So it's pretty weird. There's just this invisible wall in the course that goes way higher up than anything else.
Oh man, Mega Punch is a great move to have.
That means anytime you go through that spot, you may end up bonking on
it's not like the best normal type move ever, but it's stab and it's strong. That's all I really care about.
Well, let me explain. Here's a top-down view of the unit grid, and let's say we have
we got a potential runner here
on a seam like this. Now normally, invisible wall units are at a slanted angle, but just to keep this demonstration simple, we're going to say that they're all in a nice row like this. And let's say Mario's currently south of the invisible wall seam and wants to cross it going north. Now it's important to understand exactly how Mario's movement works. So Mario has a horizontal speed, which represents how many units forwards he moves per frame. For example, if Mario's speed is 8, then he moves 8 units forwards per frame. But even that's a bit of an oversimplification because the game doesn't move Mario forwards all at once. Instead, it takes his speed and subdivides it into 4 equal pieces called quarter steps. So a speed of 8 would be subdivided into 4 quarter steps, each having a size of 2. Then on each frame, Mario moves forwards by 4 quarter steps. So in the game, you'd see Mario before he does the 4 quarter steps, you'd see Mario after he does the 4 quarter steps, but you wouldn't see him at these intermediate positions because they happen mid-frame. But I'll still show them here because they're very relevant for this discussion. So here, I'm making full steps pink and quarter steps yellow.
As long as don't crit, I'm fine.
Distinguish them. Earlier, when I showed movement arrows, they were kind of a mishmash between quarter steps and full steps because I was simplifying. But you see, it's only every full step that Mario's animation updates and gravity applies, while it's every quarter step that floors, walls, ceilings, and out of bounds apply. Since here, we're interested in whether Mario hits invisible wall units, which are ceilings and out of bounds, we're only going to focus on the quarter step arrows. And I'll add even more arrows to his pathing, because we're interested in whether he hits the invisible wall at any point.
I'm excited. I hope this thing does good. Just because, while it's not particularly amazing, I really like this thing's stat spread.
A spacing like this, and a spacing that's offset by 1 unit like this. You can think of them as one covers the even unit squares, and one covers the odd unit squares. If we look at the invisible wall seam, you can see that the pathing on the left skips straight over the seam, while the pathing on the right hits it. Since invisible walls stop your movement, I'll remove all the arrows after the collision and put this symbol at the collision point. So in this example, there's a 50% chance that we hit the
If I can get Dragon Dance,
wall,
ooh, could you imagine?
Every 2 spacings hits it. Another way to see this is if we take just one of the spacings and move the starting point continuously. You can see that half the time it makes it through and half the time it stops. So that's why invisible walls can seem sort of random. Even though they're always there and don't move, you're not guaranteed to hit them when you cross the seam. Instead,
yo, Pink, welcome in. I did not expect to see you tonight.
So in theory, you could always avoid hitting them by controlling your spacing just right.
Pleasant surprise.
But in practice, at least casually, that's way too precise to control. But luckily, there are some other factors that are easier to control that also affect how often you hit an invisible wall. For example, your speed.
We're gonna need to put this thing to sleep.
We've just been
whittle it
working
down.
with a speed of 8, which has quarter steps of size 2. But let's double that to 16 speed, which has quarter steps of size 4.
This is not good.
4 different
Stop missing.
Covering all the units
Go to late night stack.
a multiple of 4.
Nice.
More than a multiple of 4.
Yeah, stop it. Stop it, Aggron. Stop it. Stop it.
There wouldn't be any more than
Thank
that.
God Shadow Punch can't miss, or else I would have lost there for sure. Yo, 69 attack. Let's freaking go.
But starting 1/4 step forwards. But anyway, you can see
That's your day off though. Yeah, I have 3 days off in a row.
meaning that
And
there's
it's
a
been
1/4
amazing.
chance of
I still got
hitting.
one more day
And just
tomorrow.
Like before, we can also see this by taking one of the spacings and moving it continuously.
This is gonna be my last run, I think, for the stream.
The invisible wall and stops. So at 8 speed, there was a 50%
'Cause,
chance of hitting the invisible wall,
ow.
and at 16 speed, there was only a
'Cause why
25%
not, I
chance
guess.
of hitting it. So basically, the faster Mario's moving, the smaller the
Ow.
chance of hitting the
Why did the
invisible
rival
wall,
have such good
because
freaking
more
moves?
Speed means
That's
your
right.
quarter steps cover more distance, and then they're more likely to pass right over the invisible wall units.
I like the up and
Separately,
attack, but I
chance
wish I
of
didn't have
hitting
down
the invisible
defense
wall
nature.
also
That really
depends on
sucks.
Mario's
An
angle
adamant
to
nature would have
the
been
wall
broken
scene.
for this thing.
Currently,
Actually, no, I actually
moving
would have preferred to take
particularly
Jolly.
to
Jolly
the
would have
scene
been the
is
perfect
optimal
nature
if
for
you're
this.
trying to avoid
I'm a little
hitting the invisible wall.
slow.
So that'll be the control case, and we'll compare it to this
But-
case of Mario turned at an angle. At this angle, each quarter step moves 3.5 units to the right and 2 units forwards. Now, if you think about this, the 3.5 units to the right.
Alright, I'm gonna
doesn't
go ahead
contribute
and
towards
turn off
crossing the
battle
scene,
animations.
and so it's
But yeah,
like
this is
that
gonna be my
part
last
of
run
the
for the
movement
night.
is going to waste at this angle.
I'll try to
It's
go all
only
the way to
2 units
Gardenia
forwards that
if
makes
I'm
progress
able
towards
to,
crossing the
but
scene.
I doubt it.
If we move both cases vertically, you can see that the angled case hits the invisible wall twice as much as the control case, since the control case moves forwards 4 units at a
'Cause
time,
I
while the angled
rarely
case
ever
moves
beat
forwards
Gardenia.
only 2 units at a time. So even though they're the same speed, the angle changes how much of your speed contributes towards getting past the invisible wall. Going perpendicularly uses all of the speed to try to get past the invisible wall, while a slanted angle only uses a component of the speed.
Of course
to
you have
try to get
aftermath.
past it. And now watch this. If we make Mario's angle even more slanted, now he moves 3.9 units
Alright, good
to
move.
the right and only 1
Transform.
unit forwards.
Absolutely garbage.
Since the invisible wall is 1 unit thick, that means Mario can't even cross it now. See, no matter where he starts, his quarter steps just don't move forwards enough to cross the seam. So to recap so far, if you're trying to avoid hitting an invisible wall, then you should be moving.
I'm
at
glad,
a fast
Kangaskhan
speed
gets a
and
decent
moving
amount of moves.
perpendicularly to the seam.
Man, I
But if
really
you're
hope we
trying to
get
hit the invisible
Bulk Up or
wall,
Dragon
then you should be
Dance.
moving at a slow speed and moving nearly parallel to the seam.
Ideally,
But there
Dragon
are
Dance.
also properties of the
'Cause although our
invisible
defense
wall itself
sucks,
that affect how often you'd hit it.
we
Up until
really-
now, we've
I
just been
prefer
looking at the
speed.
simplest example of an invisible wall, which is a 1 unit thick continuous seam.
Roy.
But invisible walls often don't look like this. For example, maybe we have an invisible wall that looks like this, where it's 2 units thick. Now if we look at all the spacings, we can see that 2 of the 4 spacings hit it, which is a 50% chance. In other words, the thicker the invisible wall is, the higher the chance of hitting it. On the other hand, we might instead have something more like this, where only every second unit on the seam is an invisible wall. Now, not only do we have 4 possible vertical spacings, but we have 2 possible horizontal spacings,
Hola,
which
kazam!
you may or may not line up with an
Or like
invisible wall
Alakaded.
unit.
I'm sorry.
To illustrate this,
I got
we can
a little
subdivide
carried away.
each of the existing cases
Ow.
into 2 cases.
Ouch.
So now, we have 4 different classes of vertical spacings. 3 of them cross right over the seam, but 1 of them lands on the seam directly. Not necessarily.
Hope we
on
can
an
get to
invisible
22
wall
before
unit,
the
which is on
gym,
the
but
seam.
it's a
And
stretch.
separately, we have 2 different classes of horizontal
King doing work.
spacings.
King
One of
is
them
doing work,
passes between
honestly.
the invisible wall
This thing's
units, and
attack
the
stat
other one
is
lines up
insanely
with the
high.
invisible wall
That's
unit.
why I
So
want
in
it.
total,
That's why I
there's
want
8
it so bad to
possible
do
spacings,
well,
only one of which is the
because
invisible
although it's not
wall.
particularly
So
great, and I
there's a
definitely don't
1
think I'm gonna be able to beat
Another way
Kaizo
of
with this
saying
thing,
it is, there's a
I think it
1 in 4
has
chance that we
a
line up
really
with the
good
seam,
chance on
and
getting me a
1 in
decent
2
PB.
chance that we line up with an invisible wall unit. So multiply
And it's
them
just fun to
together, and
use.
you get that
Like,
there's a
Pokemon like
1
this
in
are fun to
2 chance
use.
of hitting the invisible wall. And note that this is in
For sure.
comparison to before when it was a continuous seam where we had a 1/4 chance of hitting it. But now that it's half
But
as dense, we
knowing
only
my
have
luck,
half
I'm
the
probably
chance
gonna
of
lose on
hitting
the
it,
first
which is
gym.
1/8. So basically,
So we'll
the
see how that
denser the
goes, but
invisible wall is, the higher the chance of hitting
my
it.
expectations
And
aren't super
finally,
high,
many invisible
admittedly.
walls don't even have a uniform spacing along the whole seam. For example, maybe it's more dense on the left and less dense on the right. In this case, trying to cross it on the left side is more
Got
likely
this.
to hit it, and trying to cross it on the right side is less likely to hit
Time
it.
will tell.
So yeah, that's the basics
Pretty
of
soon,
interacting
actually.
with this
I'm
kind
trying
of
to
invisible
be at the
wall.
gym at,
That should
in like
help
5
you
minutes,
understand and
if
appreciate
that.
the rest of the examples as we go through them. Now, I'm not just going to show you
Some
a
good
few
items there.
examples and call it a day. That's not how we do things here. Instead, I'm going to show you every invisible wall in the
Speed?
game.
Actually, that could be
for a
pretty
few
good. I might use
reasons.
it.
First, I want this video to serve as a reference guide
the,
for every
for the gym.
invisible wall, showing where they are and what they look like. That way, the
But,
next time you bump
I don't
into
know.
one, you can come back here and see exactly why it's there. And second, I want to show you just how prevalent invisible walls are, and just how glitchy this game is. That way, you won't feel so bad about
Yeah, but
bumping
more like
into invisible
Dead
walls.
Bull.
They're so abundant that you didn't
That was
really
funny.
stand a chance. So, if you do want to see every example,
Man, plus
because
5
you might
attack
know
after every
inch of this
single
game's
level up is
weirdness,
just
then you can
absolutely.
sit
Did you
back
get
and
the new
relax
Switch? I
as
did get the
break
new
it all
Switch.
down for
I
you.
did.
And if
I've
you
been
don't
having a
wanna
lot of
watch
fun
all the
100%ing
examples because
Mario
you see
Kart
some
World.
of them and get the gist of it,
And,
that's
free
fine
roam.
too. You can skip forward to the next
Payapa
section using
berry.
YouTube's chapter system. And so now,
What?
let's get into the examples. So also in Bob on Battlefield,
Yeah, we're not gonna get to level 22 for the gym. That kind of sucks, but
it has one edge
it's
vertex
whatever.
on the bottom, which misses its edge by causing a floor gap. And so that means that all along the seam are units of out of
I
bounds.
would mark
Note
down
the density
that
of this invisible wall varies along the seam, and there are even some gaps in it.
Skip
And so
Bloom has
basically, if you ever go above this bar fence, you may end up bonking on this
Aftermath,
wall.
but
And remember
I couldn't avoid it
earlier
even
when
if I
showed
wanted
that you
to.
could bonk inside
And
a seam
$500
and get reflected
plus
every frame?
$80 per game.
Well,
No.
you can also do that on this
Fair
kind
enough.
of invisible wall,
Fair enough.
essentially by wedging yourself between two of the unit columns.
Just because you have the money for something doesn't mean you should use it. That's for sure.
You can see exactly what's going on. So on this frame,
All right,
Mario
let's
does
give ourselves
the
a
first step
Chesterberry,
going
and here we
forward
go.
as part of the dive action.
I'm gonna pause the video for this part so I can focus up. Well, let's see how this goes. Do not have high expectations. Oh, frick you with your Mega Horn. Fury attack. Yeah, I'm good. Well, we lost a crap ton of HP because Nikata had Mega Horn. That's absolutely amazing, isn't it? You'll love to see it. Not. Alright, Gym Leader time. Waylord. We missed Mega Punch. Leaf Storm. Wow, we one shot though. Alright, Starly, let's go for a Super Potion. Mega Punch. Pull up. Goldeen, Shadow Punch. Did Shadow Sing? Thank God it missed. Claudia, Shadow Punch. Good one shot. Awesome. Mega Punch. Tour, Shadow Punch. Alright, looks like we live to see another day.
That lands on a unit square of out of bounds, so
It looks like we live to see another day.
Though note that Mario's
Alright, good
bonking
TM from
animation
Mort,
is one frame
please.
behind what it should be, so on the left it doesn't quite look like he bonked.
Slam?
I mean, you can see the star particles, but his
That's kind of a
animation
worse
is still
version
diving.
of the move
But
that I
he's
already have.
bonking, so next he moves back
I can
to the
learn
quarter
it.
step, which
It's
also lands
just
on a
really
unit square
freaking
of out of
inaccurate.
bounds, so
Yeah,
that gets
Mega
me
Punch is
too,
better in
and
like
Mario
every single
reflects
way.
his angle. And now since he's still bunking, he does another quarter step backwards the other way, which also lands on the unit square.
Let's be honest, I'm never gonna use mine
so
later.
that quarter step gets cancelled and causes another reflection. And now we're back to the same state as before, so it just repeats over and over. Mario just bounces back and forth between those two unit squares. So yeah, that's why that can happen. Then still in Bob on Battlefield, we have this wall on the far side of the gap in the mountain path.
I don't know.
It has two edge vertices on the top. Interestingly, the left edge vertex
Yeah,
causes a
I don't
floor
think I'm gonna learn
overlap, so
Slam.
that's fine. But the edge vertex on the
It's
right
tempting,
causes a
but
floor gap, which
I'll
is where
pass
the
on it.
problem is. So near that right edge vertex, we have some unit columns of out of bounds.
Alright, I don't have an
Specifically,
HM on, do I?
Now this
The-
invisible wall
the
is
PC?
especially evil because if you hit it, you fall into the
I do
gap.
not. Alright, we gotta go
Like,
catch one
I
real
can't
quick.
imagine a worse place in Bob on Battlefield to have an invisible wall than on the far side of a gap you have to jump over. Then even still in Bob on Battlefield, we have this wall right after the bridge on the mountain path. It's kind of a weird shape, but it has one edge vertex on the top near the bridge.
Alright,
This edge
let's
vertex
buy some
misses its edge
repels.
by causing a floor gap,
By
which
some
means that
repels, I
there are some
mean
unit
spend all of
columns
our money
out
on
of bounds
repels.
near the bridge. And interestingly, if we zoom in on the bridge, you can see that some of the unit columns actually rise up into the bridge, and so they stop there instead of continuing to rise up. But anyway, that means that for this
Actually,
gap too, if you try to jump over
let's
it,
just
you
go
may
this
end up
way.
hitting this invisible
getting her.
wall and falling into the gap. And one more in Bob on Battlefield, we have this wall below the upper alcove in the mountain. It has two edge vertices. Zooming in, we can see that the right one causes a floor overlap and
gotcha,
the left
plan.
one causes a floor gap. So the result is that mainly on the left side of the alcove, we have some unit columns of out of bounds, and these ones are fully contained within the alcove. So this
Yeah, I'm not
means
gonna
anytime you enter
look
or
at
exit
what
this
Drips and
alcove,
Smooms
you may
are,
bonk
'cause I don't
on
wanna
this
accidentally
invisible
cheat.
wall. Then in Jolly
Although
Roger
it's not
Bay,
technically
we have this
cheating, but
wall on
I
the right side
count
of
it as
this
cheating.
alcove. It has one edge vertex on the top. Will there be a floor overlap or a floor gap? It's a floor gap. I mean, it has to be. Otherwise, why would we be here examining it? Now, a cool
Alright,
thing
we only
about
got one
this
item down
is that
here.
It only has 4 unit columns of out of bounds, so you can see each one of them individually. And since this one's in
Zinc?
water, we can swim into
My
it.
special
which
defense is
cancels our
fine.
movement, and so we just end up swimming in place.
I will pass.
So it looks pretty odd. Then in the Jolly Roger Bay ship, we've got a lot going on. So first, there's this lowest platform that has a wall with an edge vertex, and so it has an invisible wall on its edge.
Alright, we
Then
got a forced
next, we
double
have the
battle up
slightly
here.
higher platform. Very similar thing going on here, because the bottom of this wall has an edge vertex leading to another invisible wall. Then on one of the higher platforms, we have yet another wall with an edge vertex that causes an invisible wall. So that makes 3 platforms with invisible walls, but can we get a 4th one? And yes we can, on the highest platform of them all. This time, the wall's a slightly different shape and there are only 3 unit columns of out out of bounds. So yeah, those are the 4 platforms with this type of invisible wall.
Supersonic.
So if you thought climbing up
Frick
these
off.
platforms was hard on its own, just remember that
Ever since I learned Mega Punch, I haven't
on
gotten
one of
any
these
good
invisible
moves.
walls.
Like literally
But
any
hey,
good moves.
At least now you know where they are, so you can avoid them or hit them on purpose if that's what you're into. I'm not here to judge. Then in Cool Mountain,
I mean, it's like
we have this
whatever.
wall. It's like an upside down triangle, so it has 1 edge vertex on the bottom. Now, if we show all the
No
floors
remarkable
except
heals
the
either,
depth
so
barrier, you can see that there are some
I'm
floor
probably
gaps,
screwed for
but this
Gardenia.
time, they're filled with ceiling instead of out of bounds. Because if we look on the bottom
Here we
of
got the
structure,
robot
we
berry,
can
let's
see the
go.
ceiling down here, whose
Best
upper
berry in the
hitbox
game.
leaks through those floor
What does it
gaps.
do?
So what that means is that all along the seam, there are unit columns of ceiling leaking through. Now, as a general rule, in courses with death barriers, all the invisible walls coming out of floor gaps will be due to ceilings and not out of bounds. Because think about it, if the course has a death barrier,
Well, I guess
then
I'll
the
go
whole
back
thing
and
is
fight that
protected
lady
from
because
out
it's
of
like
bounds.
I
That
didn't take a
means you wouldn't
damage. So.
find out of bounds anywhere in the main part of the course. And it's not like the course geometry can generate its own out of bounds. That's not how that works. Here's another
Yeah,
way
it's
to
not
think
how
about
that
it.
works.
Let's say we have a floor
Bruh.
and it has a floor gap in it.
I'm
In
sorry,
order
I
for
have
this
mental
floor gap
problems.
to have out of bounds under it, there would have to be no floor under it, because that's what out of bounds means. But even if the main part of the course doesn't
Alright,
have
are
any
we gonna
floors
need
under
HM
it, the death barrier is still guaranteed
No,
to be
we
a
don't.
floor
We're not gonna
under
need it for a little bit.
So it's just not possible to have out of bounds.
Oh,
come out of the
well, I'm
floor
gonna need
gap.
it for the
Instead,
double battle.
The only way for
but
there to
other
be
than
an
that,
invisible wall coming out of the floor gap would be if there's a ceiling hitbox leaking through it, because courses can generate their own ceiling hitboxes. Now let me clarify how jumping into ceiling columns works. Basically, there are 3
yes,
cases.
please tell me how
Case
jumping
1,
into
you move
ceiling
into the
columns
ceiling
works.
column while falling down. In this case, your quarter step gets cancelled and you bonk, assuming you're moving fast enough. Then case 2,
Rickroll.
you move into
Or
the
like
ceiling
we're
column while
dead.
moving
Oh my gosh,
upwards.
why do you have Dragon
Your
Rage?
quarter step gets cancelled,
Oh
and the
my
ceiling
gosh,
cuts
that was
short your
scary.
upward trajectory, meaning you'll now start falling down. But then let's say you missed the ceiling column on the next frame, either because your speed changed or you're holding a slightly different angle on the control stick.
Yo,
Then you'll pass right
please.
through the invisible wall and continue with your trajectory, though it'll now be moving downwards. And then case 3, you move into the ceiling column while moving upwards, so your
Cast
quarter
form,
step gets canceled
easy money.
and it cuts short your upward trajectory. And
I
then
don't
you
like
hit the
running into
ceiling
too many
column
normal
again
types
on the
because
next
Mega Punch
frame
is
with
really
your
scary
downward
because it's
trajectory.
inaccurate.
And
So
just like the first case,
I always
your
like using
quarter
Shadow
step
Punch
gets
when I
canceled and
can.
you bonk, assuming you're moving fast enough. So it kinda looks like you went straight from moving upwards to bonking, but it was actually a 2-frame process because of the way ceilings work. So yeah,
Alright,
those are the 3
yay.
main
Okay, so let's
interactions
go
that can happen when you jump
heal
into
and
a
then get
scene
our
with ceiling hitbox.
HM Pokemon so we can do the
going
double
back to
battle.
game, let me show you what
And
these
then
interactions
send
look
for the
like.
galactic
So
building.
first I hit the ceiling while moving downwards, which causes me to bonk. Next I hit it while moving upwards and then miss it afterwards, so it
We gotta
cuts short
kill
my
our
triple
HM on though.
and then I hit it 2
Because that's
frames
the
in a row,
rules.
so
And
it
well,
looks
plus
like
even
I
if
went straight
it
from
wasn't the
moving
rules,
upwards to
I
bonking, but it
would want to
actually
kill
took
anyway
2
because then I
frames.
get more
And like I
experience.
mentioned
Why
earlier,
would I want
an
to waste
easy way
experience on
confirm
my
that this invisible wall is a ceiling is to just walk into it and then try jumping.
on my
You can see
HM
that my jumps
Pokemon?
don't go anywhere, meaning it's a ceiling. On the other hand, if we push against an invisible wall that's out of bounds and then try jumping, the jumps actually go up. Then next in Cool Mountain, we have this wall. It's a pretty interesting shape because there's like a little overhang structure on the right, and here are the relevant edge vertices. So the first one misses by causing a floor gap, then a floor
Yay, we
overlap.
did it. Alright.
Now let's zoom out and hide some of the lower floors.
Galactic
Next
building
part is
time.
easier
Watch
to
us
see.
die to
So then
Mars
we have a
here
floor
because we
overlap,
probably
and
will.
the last one is a floor gap.
Because we
Based
usually
on
do.
our earlier discussion, you should already know that these ones are going to be ceiling leaking through and not out of bounds.
I might
Since
utilize the
Cool
Mind
Mountain
Reader
is a
hypnosis
death
strats,
barrier.
but
Now you can see that there
it
are
just
2
is going to
sections of
depend on
invisible wall.
what
The
Pokemon she
section
has.
on the left is due to this ceiling on the underside of the wood.
Alright,
and
we
the
got
section on the
Chesto
right
and a
is due to this
spear.
ceiling on the underside of the
I
overhang.
guess we'll go for
So
just
these
Chesto.
invisible walls could get in your way if you're doing
Why not?
movement near the
We're
red
more
corn
likely to
star.
get put to
And
sleep than
remember, the grid
frozen,
flap
so.
invisible wall is around here
Alright, slow
too.
down the game here because I don't want to
surely
fight him
there
unless
would
I
be a
have
third one
to.
around here, right? Well, also in Cool
frick you.
Mountain, there's this wall, right next door to the previous one we looked at. Now this wall is actually made up of 2 floors, 2 ceilings, and 2 walls. And it's the big wall on the left that's the issue. It's another triangle, so it
Actually,
has
a little
1
up
edge
there.
vertex on the bottom. This edge vertex misses the edge by causing a floor gap, resulting in 2 sections of invisible wall. The section on the right is due to this ceiling triangle.
Of course, I
that
missed
we've been
Mega
looking at
Punch
the whole
twice in a
time.
row.
And the section on the left is due to
Great.
this ceiling
At least
down
it one
here,
shot,
you
though.
know, the
Can't
top of
complain.
the little cave. And so basically, if you're messing around
Alright.
near the blue coins, you might just bump into this invisible wall. Now this
Let's
invisible
fight
wall
Mars.
is interesting because it's actually used
Graveler.
in the task for collecting 100 coins while doing the big penguin race, which was tasked
Red Punch
by
got a crit,
Crackus.
nice.
See, she
And then
uses the
Sentry it.
invisible wall to backwards
GG
long
easy.
jump in order to get lots of speed. That makes for a quick trip back up the mountain to enter the cabin for the penguin race. Now I've talked about backwards long jumping a
Well, then
couple
we're almost
times, but I
certainly
haven't
getting to
really explained
Gardenia,
it,
but
so let me do that now.
that doesn't
So
mean we're
Mario
gonna
has a
beat
move
her.
called a long jump
I'm not
that you can
expecting
do
to
by
beat her,
pressing
to
Z
be honest.
and then A while you're moving. Now the cool thing about a long
Alright, let's
jump
go
is that
heal.
when you start it, it multiplies your speed by 1.5.
Alright, this is the part of the game where I'm gonna have to pull up the
If we
guide.
start with 1 speed and then continuously
Because there's
long
certain
jump,
trainers that we want to
speed
fight
increases
before
by
other
more and more
trainers.
each time, because each time it multiplies by 1.5, or in other words, gets 50% bigger. Now the programmers didn't want you to be able to get infinite speed this way, so they capped it at a maximum of 48 speed. So a long jump will never go above 48 speed. But the programmers made a little oversight.
Alright, so the
because
first
they
trainer
forgot
that we
about
want
the
to fight
negative number.
is...
So let's say we start with negative.
I hope
1
you're
speed.
right. I hope
Now
you're
if we
right.
start
First trainer we want to fight is
continuously
up
long jumping, our
here.
speed will decrease by more and more, since multiplying by 1.5 just makes these negative numbers more negative. And this time there's no
Use
cap,
repel,
because
but
the
whatever.
programmers never put a minimum speed that a long jump can do. So basically, we can get unlimited negative speed by long jumping backwards. And so we call it.
We know Polayan
backwards
actually has
long
really
jump,
bad
or
defense. I'm gonna mark it down
BLJ.
defense.
Now, doing backwards long jumps doesn't automatically result in unlimited negative speed. That's because even though the starting speed of a long jump is uncapped, Mario loses speed while he's in the air from the long jump. So trying
Alright,
to backwards
item,
long jump on a
Deep-sea
flat
Tooth,
floor with
absolutely
nothing
useless,
else
let's
won't
go.
work because Mario loses
Alright, we
too
want to
much
fight this
speed in the
trainer.
air. Looking at
Not
the speed
you.
value, you can see that I get to negative 20 speed
We want
right
to
after
fight
starting a long jump,
the trainer
but then
up
it goes
here.
back to negative 15 by the time I land and can do the next long jump. To avoid losing all this speed, we need to do a bunch of
She's got
backwards
2
long
level
jumps in quick
18s as opposed to
succession.
1 level
So you can do this on
21.
a steep floor,
Scarier to
because
fight.
then each long jump lands back on the floor instantly, and so you can do a bunch of long jumps in a row without any airtime. You can also do it on a rising platform because the platform rises into your jump, so you land instantly and can then backwards long jump again.
Alright,
And
we get
finally,
item
you
here.
can do it using a ceiling because the ceiling makes
Just
you
put the
land
game up.
instantly instead of
Alright,
letting you jump up.
gotta be
See,
careful
it's
to
all
avoid the
coming
spinner.
together. So going back to the cool mountain task, let's pause it, zoom
And,
in, and now I'll show Mario's movement arrows.
we're actually gonna have to
And
go
I'll
this
make the
way
arrows
to
green if they're
guarantee
on the
we
first
avoid the
frame
other
of a long jump.
spinner.
So you can see that each backwards long jump was strategically done to move into a ceiling column, which prevents Mario from jumping up and instead makes him land right after. That allows Mario to do the next backwards long jump right away, and so he's able to build up speed.
Alright, now we can
very
fight those 2
quickly by
trainers that we
doing
skipped. I just
So
wanted to go
see,
back in here
invisible
real quick.
walls can actually be helpful for something. Then in Big Boo's
There's no
Haunt,
such thing
we
as
have this
overhealing
wall
in
on the seam
Kaizo.
between floors. Now you might be wondering what
Or
floor
excessive
the
healing, I
magenta
guess I
line
should say.
belongs to. Well, there are actually some invisible
Thick
intangible floor
Deoxys.
triangles in this room.
Or like
covering the
dead
gap on the
Deoxys.
floor. So why are they there? Well, you see,
Sorry,
when Mario's in
I got a
course
little
with
bit carried
rooms
away.
Like Big Boo's Haunt, then only 1 or 2 rooms are active at a time. Specifically, the game activates the room that Mario's in and any room that he's next to the door of.
Dead.
And the way the game figures out
Alright, hidden
which
item
rooms
up
to
here.
activate is based on the floor
Starf Berry,
triangle
yo,
that
we just got the
Mario's
best
above.
berry in the
So
game,
to
let's
put it
go.
simply, if
I
Mario's
literally
above
have
a
no
floor
idea
in
what it
room
does.
A, then room A will be active. If he's above a floor in room B, then room B will be active.
Die,
And if
Clay,
he's
all
above
die.
a sort of intermediate floor, usually next to a door, then both room A and room B will be active. Now, the system works pretty well, but think about how it would work in this room. The thing about this room is that there's a big gap in the floor that leads to the room down below. Since Mario's current room is based on which floor he's above, in theory, that would mean jumping over the gap would change your room to the room down below. That'd be bad because then the room down below would be active instead of the upper room, even though you're still in that upper room. So to solve this, the programmers
Ooh, that
did
was
2
close.
things. First, they added some
Don't wanna
invisible
avoid fight her, she is
intangible
level
floors here that
23.
belong to
Kinda
this upper
scary.
room. That way, even if you're above the gap, your floor triangle is still a floor from this upper room, and so the upper room stays active. And second, a bit lower down,
Goblins.
they added a second layer of
Alright,
invisible
she's the last trainer we got.
These floors are intermediate.
And then we got
floors,
Turner
meaning
Forest.
They activate both the upper room and lower room. So when Mario falls into the gap, first the upper room is active, then both the upper room
Ow!
and lower room are
That was
active, and
painful.
then only the lower room is active.
Alright, I don't think we...
So
Yeah, we're not
that's
gonna
what these
need
floors are.
our
And now
Gemon
let's
for the
resume
forest.
visual, which reveals that there are floor gaps. But this time, it's not ceiling or
I think that's all the
bounds
trainers and
below
all
the floor
items on that
gaps.
route.
Remember
Alright.
earlier, I said
We gotta
there
turn
were
to
3
forest
cases
next.
for floor gaps. So far, we've only
we gotta
seen
turn to
case
forest
2,
next, let's
which
do
is
this.
out of bounds, and case 3, which is a ceiling. But now, it's our first time seeing case 1, where there's a floor gap with a floor under it. So it's not actually an invisible wall, though it does stem from the same cause. So in our demonstration, that means each of these floor gaps has a floor under it, so I'll put blue points to represent that. And remember, these are floor gaps in the
Like
upper
Clay, I'm not so
intangible
sure about
floor.
that. Felt pretty
So when
heavy.
Mario goes
Bruh,
above
that was
these
not
floor
funny.
gaps, his new floor is
Sorry.
the lower intangible floor. So doing that causes the lower room to also activate and hides the objects in the upper room, like the Boo and red coin.
Are we
that's
learning
why
Power
out of
Whip?
nowhere, the Boo
You
can
know
just
what?
teleport
Actually,
back
yeah.
to its starting position while you're in this room. And finally,
I'll learn
since it's a
that.
floor
That's
gap with a
coverage, I
floor
mean.
under it, we can just
Get
jump
Mind
into
Reader.
it and fall down to the room below.
What?
Dude, Torkoal is sweeping with
anyone see
frickin'
that?
Then in Hazy Maze Cave, we have this mesh ceiling that you're supposed to swing across.
Water
If you're not
spouting.
familiar with it,
Dang,
there's
son, where'd
this
you find
path on the
this?
right that's just a dead end. There's this path in the middle that leads to an item block.
All right,
with the
item
one-up in it,
here.
And there's this path on the left that leads
Potion,
to the
we
start.
take those.
Now this one isn't actually an invisible
All right, next
wall.
we
It's
doesn't
not
matter
even a
which one of
floor
these two
gap,
Pokemon
it's a ceiling
trainers
gap.
we fight.
Because remember, all the properties about floor detection also apply
Oh,
to
you lived on
ceilings,
1 HP,
so they
Squirrel.
can have edge vertices that cause gaps too. And the reason these ceiling gaps matter is because if you're swinging across the mesh and move into a ceiling gap, then you fall off the mesh. So anyway, on this mesh structure, we have
All right,
these
we
four
want to
edge
get this item
vertices that
here.
lie on this edge.
Circle,
We have
yay.
this edge vertex that lies on this edge, and we have this edge vertex that lies on this edge. So first, let's
okay,
look at the seam
so
on the dead end path. Its edge
I wanna fight
vertex
you
causes
first.
a ceiling overlap, which means that there's no problem here. So there's no risk of falling off if you explore the dead end. Then next, let's look at the seam at the start of the one-up path. This one has two edge vertices.
With
The right one causes a ceiling
stab,
overlap,
Mega
and the
Punch is
left
actually
one
the same
also
power as
causes a
power.
ceiling overlap. So
Same
this
damage
seam
as
is
Power
also
Whip?
fine. Now let's
So
look at the
Power Whip
seam
is
near the
equally
end
as
of
good
the
to go
one-up
for
path.
as Mega
Its
with
edge
as
vertex
Mega
misses
Punch.
by causing a ceiling gap, meaning
if
that
it's
there are
neutral for
ceiling
both.
gaps all along the seam.
So-
and I'm making them orange because we need a new color for ceiling gaps, and
I don't think Power Whip has.
here.
Yeah, it
Next,
doesn't have any
let's look at the
secondary
seam at
effects,
the start of the
unfortunately.
star path. Just one edge vertex, which
Kind of
misses
annoying.
by causing a ceiling gap. So on this seam too, there are ceiling gaps that could make you fall off. Not
If I-
very good, since this is the path to the
okay.
star.
Alright,
Like the one
item
path you
here.
have to take. And
Yo, we got the
finally, let's
Reaver
look at the
Cloth.
seam
Let's
near
go.
the
Best
end
item
of
in the
star
game.
path. Just
Alright,
one
fight
edge
you
vertex
next.
again, and this one also causes a ceiling gap. Which is extra not good, because
That's
that
the
means the path
wrong
to the star has two seams of ceiling gaps, which, like
Pokemon.
I said, can make you fall off out of nowhere. So in total, the mesh has 3 seams of ceiling gaps, one on the path to the one-up and 2 on the path to the star. You know,
Ew.
this whole thing kind of feels like one of those carnival games that's secretly rigged against you. Like, they let you practice your swinging skills on the dead
Alright.
end to let you get the hang of it.
We only
and
got
build
one
up
more
your
thing in this
confidence.
forest to do,
Since
and
there's no
it's
risk
to
of
get this
falling off
item.
there, that one's perfectly safe. So then you try testing your
Island's
skill
nice.
on the one-up path.
Alright.
There are no ceiling gaps near the beginning.
Made it out of
of it
Eternal
because
Forest.
they wanna make you
That
think you have a chance,
it's very
but then
rare to
right at
lose
the
in Eternal
end, it's a
Forest.
trap
Like
to
you,
make you fall
sometimes
off.
you're like
Here, I
the
hit a
only
ceiling gap and
way
fall
you can
down, but luckily
realistically
it
lose in
still lands
Eternal
on the
Forest
platform.
is if you get really bad
Finally,
luck on the
if you
first
wanna
double
go for the
battle.
big prize, the star, well now it's double rigged against you. These first ceiling
Black
gaps
flute,
are less dense on the
nice.
right side,
Not
so that's
really.
the safer side to go on. And the second group of ceiling gaps is less dense on the left side, so that's what I recommend there. Though here, I
Net
still
ball.
end up hitting it
Okay.
and falling down,
Alright.
which could easily
We
lead
wanna
to a
fight
death
this
if you're
trainer
not
first.
expecting it. And also, because these are ceiling gaps, that means it's possible to just jump right up into the gap, because the ceiling doesn't block you there. Here's what jumping into the gap looks like in the game. And just for good measure, I bonk in there to show that I'm surrounded by ceiling hitbox. Then in Lethal Lava Land, we have this arched platform.
Crush Claw?
Its shape is like a breeding ground.
Oh my
for
gosh,
edge
it's a
vertices.
godsend.
Look at it, we have 7 of them.
Crush Claw is
Let's
actually
see.
a godsend. We're
We have
forgetting
floor
hypnosis.
overlap, floor overlap, floor overlap.
We
floor
actually have a
overlap,
more accurate
floor
normal
gap,
type move. Let's
floor
freaking
gap,
go.
Floor gap. So
That
mainly on the
makes
right
me feel
side,
so
we
much
have
better.
A bunch of unit columns of out of bounds that leak out. But we can't forget about the other side of the structure.
Crush Claw
because
is
on this
actually
side,
kinda
we have
clutch.
something very similar going on. 7 edge vertices. Looking at these ones, we have a floor overlap, floor overlap, floor overlap, floor overlap, floor gap, floor gap, floor gap. So it's actually the same pattern on this side that it was on the other side. But yeah, be careful if you're on this structure. And when Mario does a lava boost, he's able to reflect off of out of bounds, which means we can wedge Mario between unit columns to make him reflect every frame.
Oh,
just like earlier
crap.
with the bonking.
Bro's got,
And in the volcano and Lethal
Destiny
Lava
Bond.
Lands, we have these flare triangles near the lava fall, which have an edge vertex between them.
That was
so
scary.
This is a rare case when it involves a seam between floors without there being a wall on the seam. But we can analyze it just the same and see that the edge vertex causes a floor gap. So there's not even a wall over the floor gap this time, there's just nothing there. And that's why we get unit columns of out of bounds, which extend all the way up to near this upper path. So if you try to take a shortcut by jumping over the gap, you could just end up bonking on this invisible wall and falling down.
Alright, this is the last
And
trainer
the
in
cool
this
thing about
area.
This one is that it's actually used in the A button challenge, you know, where your goal is to not press A. See, bouncing off the invisible wall helps you redirect your momentum when you're doing lava boosts. like
Alright,
the lava fall, which lets you
next
get
thing we
all
wanna
the way over
do
to the star
is- well,
platform
first of all,
without
let's
having to
heal.
press A at all. Then in
Duh.
Dire Docks, we have this wall near the 5 yellow
And the next
coins.
thing we wanna
Based on
do
the
is we
edges,
wanna
it
get
doesn't look
our
like there should be any edge
HM
vertices
on.
here. It just looks like 2
It's just
edges
gonna- we're gonna
that
need
should
it in a
lateral
little bit.
the line. But what you don't see is that the floor
Alright,
on
we
the
wanna go down
bottom
here,
is
get
bigger than you think and extends
this
behind the
item.
wall. So really, the bottom edge looks like this.
Old Gateau. That's a healing item. That's like a full
Now,
heal.
this one's weird because the
Alright,
edges
and the
are
next
not
thing we
at
want
a
to do
weird
is we
angle,
want
they're
to
cardinally
get,
aligned,
well, we want
which
to talk to
means
Cynthia,
that it
get
was
cut.
completely doable to put these edge vertices
And then we
exactly
want
on the
to
edge,
get
but for
this
whatever
hidden
reason,
item
they
behind the
missed. And so
statue.
we end up with a 2-unit thick continuous seam
Fire
of
hit, that's not
invisible wall,
useless, I
which
guess,
makes
so.
this one pretty egregious.
Whatever.
Like, if you cross over
Alright, now
the
we got a few
seam,
trainers
you're
over here to
very
fight.
likely to hit this invisible wall, compared to the other ones we've seen whose units are more scattered.
Repel.
So you might bonk on it, you might try to jump up from the water onto the ledge and only manage to ledge grab.
Alright,
and
we
you
want
might try
to
to run off this
get this
ledge
hidden
and
item
end up
here.
ledge grabbing instead,
If I can.
because walking
Our
into
scale,
an
it's
invisible
useless.
wall
Alright,
slows
then we want
down
to fight
your
this trainer
speed,
here.
and walking near a ledge with too little speed makes you drop down into a ledge grab instead of just walking off the edge. Then in Snowman's Land, we have this wall. The top of the wall is subdivided into 2 different
I'd rather
edges,
vacuum
so we have
wave
an edge
than
vertex
Mach Punch,
between
so I'll
them,
take it.
and that edge vertex causes an invisible wall.
Alright, next we
And you
want
can see
to
that some of
fight
these unit
this
columns only rise upwards
trainer right
until
here.
they meet the icy bridge. But anyway, I guess this invisible wall could actually help you if you were about to accidentally jump off, because then it could bonk you back on. Then another in Snowman's Land.
Alright,
this
and
wall
then
near
this is
you.
why we wanted to get
So
our
2 of
HM on
these
real quick so we
triangles
can
are actually
get past this rock so we can
ceilings.
fight this
So here
trainer.
are the edges, and here are the relevant edge vertices. Zooming in on them, we have a floor overlap on the left.
I
and
wish
on the
Crush
right,
Claw had
the
more
vertices
PowerPoints,
miss
but
in
it's
a way
alright.
that causes a
Wow,
floor
did you
gap.
see
It's
that?
just a
Plus
little
6
one,
attack,
exactly
dude. That's
2 columns of
insane.
out of bounds.
Holy
And you can see
cow.
that these columns only rise upwards until they meet the icy
Alright,
bridge.
it's
So it seems
Gym
unlikely
Leader.
that
It's
anyone's ever
Gardenia
hit
time.
these ones before, since
Wish me
there's
luck,
just 2
I'm
of them,
definitely
and
gonna
they're in
need
such
it
a weird
because
spot
Gardenia
next to the
is
screen
impossible
wall.
to get by.
Also in
I think
Snowman's
I'd say
Land,
I
triangles on the snowman's head. Once again,
beat
this is a seam
Gardenia
between floors with
once
no wall in it, and the floors have an
out of
edge
every
vertex
like
that
20
causes a floor
attempts.
gap.
That's
Do
how
these floor
difficult
gaps let
Gardenia
you out of
is.
bounds or a ceiling?
Oh, I gotta
Well,
deposit
why
my
not
HM
both?
one.
See, farther down on the snowman, there's a ceiling that covers some of the floor
Alright,
gaps,
so let's
but
drip
not all of
balloon.
them. So floor gaps to the northwest let out of bounds leak through, and floor
Alright.
gaps to the southeast
All or
let
nothing here.
ceiling leak through. So it's like a hybrid invisible wall, half out of bounds.
Alright,
half
we
ceiling,
want to equip the
but
berry.
100%
Alright, we're gonna pause the video because we gotta focus up here. You want to use glass cannon, but I think you win. I'm a little slow. If I'm going to lose, I think the most likely scenario I lose is Destiny Bond. But we'll see. Alright, so we got Chesto, Spear. I mean, let's just go Chesto. I wish I had a setup move. That would make this nicer, but it's like whatever. Alright. First trainer. Toxic Croak. Did I have Intimidate? I don't know. Okay, let's go Crush Claw. One shot, nice. Grovile. We want to go Shadow Punch. Yes, alright. We lost a good chunk of health there. But it's like whatever. Alright, I'm gonna slow down the game. So I can focus a little bit better. Alright, Nidoran. We want to go Shadow Punch. Die. Not to Shadow Punch. Die. Nuzleaf. Crush Claw. Die. Bubble up. Bubble? Heck no. To the no, no, no. Heck no. To the no, no, no. Heck no. To the no, no. Alright, she's only got one Mon and it's Eevee. Mega Punch. Dead. Alright. Gardenia. Would it be insane if I beat Gardenia? Well, I guess it wouldn't technically be 2 streams in a row. But, whatever. Alright, let's play at normal speed. So I can take my time. Okay, first mod is Wailord. That's fine. We go Power Whip. One shot, nice. Maybe we don't miss. That's huge. Alright, next is Typhlosion. We want to go Mega Punch. Rod Chop hurts. Mega Punch one-shots, though. Alright, next is Wheezing. We want to go Mega Punch. Mega Punch is disabled. Frick off. We go to Shadow Punch. Brick Break. Wow, we one-shot, though. That's huge. Alright, next is Shift Tree. We want to heal here. I don't want to heal, but I might have to if I want a chance to win. YOLO. Oh yeah, I forgot Mega Punch disabled. Tough call. I have no idea what it has. YOLO. Fence fell, citrus berry. Feed fell. Meditate, that's fine. Down. Level up. More attack. Armaldo. Is this our last mon? No, she's still got 2 more mons. Alright, let's go Shadow Punch. Feed Bomb. We live. Alright, now we Hyper Potion. Leech Life's fine. Go Power Whip. Does more damage. Okay. I didn't want to use my Hyper Potion, but I had to. Alright, hit Powdon. We just Power Whip. Alright, we won. Wow. I cannot believe that I beat Gardenia again. That's insane. I had to use a Hyper, but honestly, I'll freaking take it. I'll honestly freaking take it. Wow. I rarely ever beat Gardenia. That's insane. I really just can't believe it. Okay, good TM, please. Jump Kick's good, actually. It's so risky, though. I probably won't learn it. I probably won't learn Jump Kick. Yeah, I can't even learn it anyway, so okay, that's fine. All right, well, I said I was gonna end the stream there, but honestly, let's just keep going. Let's just do the galactic building real quick, cause it would be kind of lame if I started this the next stream with this thing and then I just died in the galactic building. That'd be kind of lame. So let's go take it on real quick. And then if I beat the galactic building, then I will I'll end the stream. But first, there's a couple items we want to get. But I tried my best not to look at what the other moves were. I don't think I saw them. Okay, Flame Orb, yay. Okay, now we want to go to the old chateau. We got items here we want to get. Oh, I can play the video now, I guess.
One bonk on this could send you falling all the way down the snowman, and I mean all the way down. Then still in Snowman's Lands, we have this wall
Stone,
near
yay.
the moving snow mounds. It has 2 edge vertices on top.
Powerband,
because the wall is a
yay.
trapezoid.
Not,
Left
by the
edge
way.
vertex does a floor overlap,
Not
which is
freaking
fine,
yay.
but the
Those
right edge
items
vertex
are
does
useless.
a floor gap, which is the problem. So all along the seam, there are unit columns of added bounds. So if you're playing around near the snow mounds, you might just bump into
Zinc?
this invisible wall.
Again, my
Now,
special
there's
defense is
something very
completely
interesting
fine. I
about
don't need
this
a zinc.
invisible wall, which has to do with the snow mounds. If we look at it from the side and take a sort of cross section, you can see that each
I
of
got
the
him
snow mounds
there.
actually drops down into the ground.
Chillin',
and
Barry.
covers
It's 'cause
the
we're
invisible
chillin',
wall
that's why.
for a split second before disappearing.
Did I not
And
use
the extra
repels?
big snow
I
mound
could have
covers
swore I
it a
did.
lot. So this is the
Did it
only invisible wall
wear
where
off
unit
or something?
columns of added bounds
No, I could've
continuously
swore I
appear
used
and
to.
disappear. And because of that, we can actually have the added
Ooh,
bounds
lemonade.
appear
We take
into
those. We
Mario,
take those.
causing him to die.
We take
Get it?
those.
Like normally,
Any
added
heals
bounds
you can get in
prevent
this
you
game
from
are
going
a
into
godsend.
it, but we can go there when the added
Alright,
bounds is gone,
I
and
think
it
there's only
reappears
one
into
item.
us. So
Yeah, there's only one
basically, we can just
item up
die
here.
out of nowhere. And I should mention,
And it's
if we
this
go
one.
back into
Mystic
bounds,
Water,
we move
completely
around
useless.
some
Go.
more.
Alright,
The
we can
death
get out now.
transition already started, and so it'll still take you out
Alright,
of
now
the
we
level.
can do the
Now
galactic
you have
building.
to wonder, did anyone ever die like this in the history of the game? Surely it would take like 1,000 years before this ever happened to someone by chance, right? Well, wonder no more, because it did happen to a guy named Bebop Bandit live on stream. So let's watch.
And of course I do. Please.
All right, first things first, we want to get items that aren't blocked behind trainers. First one is.
Are you f***ing kidding me?
Let's see.
What?
We want to. Oh, I didn't mean to leave. I'm gonna go
it
this
just
way.
goes to show, when you have so many people playing the game for so many years, crazy rare stuff will happen eventually.
And then we want to go
And
to the
finally,
very.
in Snowman's Lands, we have this wall belonging to the green slope.
way.
You know the drill. There's an edge vertex, it misses by causing a floor gap, and so there's unit
So we
columns
do a
of added
Magmarizer,
bounds
alright,
all
cool.
along the seam. Now you might think this one wouldn't be too bad.
Alright, the
because it
next
goes on
item
the
that we can
green
get
slope, but
is.
actually, speedrunners climb over it as a shortcut, so it could definitely cause them to bump and mess up their run.
We want to
Because now you're
go
sliding all the way
to.
down into the water. Then near the top of Tall
This
Mountain,
way,
we have this little sliver
here.
of a wall. It has one edge vertex
And
on
then
the
we
bottom,
wanna go
and if we look closely at it, we can see that it causes floor gaps. And these are the kind
to
of floor gaps with
C1.
a floor under them because the depth barrier is below them. And so interestingly, we can actually just
And
jump
for some
right into
reason,
one of
we
these
can
floor
just go on
gaps
by
and
here
through
and
the
get this
mountain,
item.
falling
She doesn't
all
even
the way
care.
down to the depth barrier.
We walk
And
right
these
in front of
floor
her and she
gaps
does
are
not
actually
give a
used in
crap.
the A button challenge.
It's absolutely
See,
hilarious,
Mario's
all
able
that.
to dive up that
Alright, so
tree
next,
using the floor gaps.
now that
Because
we
these
got
floor
all the
gaps, you
items
can
that we
careful
can
and
get without
because
having to fight
it's
trainers.
always on a steep floor.
So
And
first
diving
trainer we
straight
want to
up the
fight is
steep
you
is the
because
fastest
we
way
get
to
2
get to
items
the
for
far
beating
top
you.
of the mountain. Then in Rainbow Ride, we have this wall on the
What?
ship.
What did I
This
say?
one also doesn't
To be
look
honest,
like a
I'm so
ship
tired. I don't
right
even remember
first.
anything I say.
It
So.
just looks like 2 edges that
Ignore me.
laterally align.
Let's just
But
look at one
if we
Pokemon.
look at the surface
Let's
triangle
power
view,
whip
we
here.
can see that there are multiple
Play
floors
safe.
here. And that's
Oh, you're
because
talking
the
about
floors on
walking
the
in front
right
of her?
are
Oh,
wind,
right.
like
Yeah.
most of the
Yeah, it's so
ship
funny. I don't know why
whereas
in the
the
world she
floors on
lets
the
you do that,
left
but
don't
it's
trigger
alright.
wind,
Alright, cool.
probably to let you get up to
Alright,
the
well, let's do
star
item
more
suck.
easily. So because of that extra subdivision of triangles, now we have an edge vertex on the bottom.
Alright, the
That
next
edge
items
vertex
we want to
causes a floor
do.
gap,
Yeah,
so
I know.
some
She
of the
just
columns of ceiling look
doesn't
through,
give a crap for some reason.
specifically from a ceiling on the bottom of the ship. So I don't know how often you're gonna go right
Alright, the
there,
next thing we
but
want to
if you
do, we need to go
you get
down
this invisible
here.
wall. Then in the castle grounds, we have
This
this
is
wall above
about
the steps
out
in the
here. We
moat.
want
As
to
you'll
go
come learn,
to.
steps are super
We already
prone to
fought. Okay, no, we already
invisible
did that.
walls, since each step adds another edge vertex. This one has 2, so let's see.
We want
The
to
left
go
one causes
to the
a
back
little
to the
gap,
first
and
floor.
The right one causes a huge gap. It's off
I
by
under-
6
I
units.
under- yeah.
It's like they weren't
Very
even
true.
trying to.
Alright, now we're gonna fight you.
And so the result of this is that we get an extra thick invisible wall, at least compared to the other ones we've seen so far. So yeah, you might hit this one if you
Good
try
one.
jumping into
Okay, let's
the
go
moat, and good luck
for
if you line up with
Crush
the
Claw.
extra thick section. And also in the castle grounds, we
Double
have
up,
this wall near
nice.
the
New
bridge.
mole, Shadow
Like I
Punch.
said, having steps is
Nice.
likely to cause invisible
Alright,
walls.
fight you.
And this is no exception. So this side of the bridge has some invisible walls.
Monotone,
But there's
Shadow
also the other
Punch.
side of the bridge, which also has a wall above these steps.
Rose Raid,
that
Crush
also
Claw.
causes a bunch of edge
Actually
vertices,
lived, I don't
some of
like
which
that.
cause floor gaps to the right of the bridge. So on this side too,
Alright, we
there are
go
unit
here.
columns of bounds. So if you ever
Would
want to
you?
go from one
The
side of
sea
the bridge
berry.
to the other,
Alright,
maybe
that's
just
every
walk on the
item, I
bridge
believe.
instead of jumping across the corners. You'll thank me
I believe
later.
that's every
And then
item
inside the castle,
that we
have
can
a
get
wall above the stairs
in
down to the
this
basement.
area.
With this many
In this
steps,
game,
we have
or
more
no,
edge
this
vertices
area. What
than
I'm talking about in this
anyone
game.
could do. Some
Imagine if that was the
some
last item we
overlaps,
get in the entire game.
the idea.
Be insane.
You know, some part
All
of
right,
me
now
was
we
like,
just
there can't be
fight
invisible
trainers
walls
until
inside the
I'm.
castle. Like, this is the hub area,
Sounds good.
our safe haven.
I don't have to
But
fight
nope,
all of them
even the
'cause
hub
it's not a
area
gym.
can have invisible walls, especially with how many
So
steps
I gotta
there
be
are in the
mindful
castle.
here.
Well, most of the castle steps are cardinally aligned, so they don't have any issues.
That'd be unfortunate.
Besides,
Yeah,
a
it'd be
few steps are at a
impossible.
weird
Like I
angle,
literally,
which is the problem.
legitimately think
So
it,
yeah,
the
on
this
both
challenge would
sides
be
of the
impossible if that
stairs,
was
there
the
are
last
invisible
item.
walls that could get in your way. So
That
watch
was the
out
last
for
item in the entire
those.
game.
Now remember, if you jump up into a ceiling, it cuts short your upwards trajectory and then
All right,
you fall
this
down.
isn't a
Also
trainer,
remember,
which is
if
kind
you
of funny.
jump up into out of bounds, the
Okay, we'll fight you
horizontal
next.
component of your quarter steps gets canceled, but you still move vertically.
Venommoth,
Interestingly, the programmers made
has
an
slow start,
oversight
that's hilarious.
because
Go
they
Shadow
never
Punch.
considered what should happen if these
Ow!
two cases occurred together. And so, if you jump
That
up into
sucks.
out of bounds with a
I
ceiling
really want to
above
get to
you,
level
the out of bounds
40
cancels
before
the
the
horizontal
before
component
Jupiter.
of your movement, and you
So
still move
we're gonna
vertically,
keep going.
completely ignoring the ceiling.
So what are?
In other words,
So we
the
wanna
ceiling
do
has no
what?
effect. You can just go
Yeah, we wanna go to
straight up into the
B2
ceiling hitbox.
and fight this
Now,
trainer
this
here.
invisible wall is made of out of bounds, and it extends up into the ceiling. So here, if we jump up into the
Left,
invisible wall, it lets us pass straight through the ceiling,
Crush
putting
Claw,
us next to the
Piplup,
upstairs
Shadow
people.
Punch.
This trick was actually used in the
Untail.
140 star task, since it's the fastest way to go from the courtyard to upstairs.
Let's not risk it,
In the
Crush
last
Claw.
example, in the Snowman's Land
Level up.
room, we have
Alright,
yet
let's go
another
take
staircase
Jupiter.
whose sides are
There's a couple more trainers.
lots
I
of
think there's like
edge
2 more
vertices,
trainers
and
left,
some of
but
them cause
honestly,
floor
I just
gaps.
want.
And so the result
I
is
just
that
wanted
we
to
get
get to
some
level
unit
40.
columns
There's
that are
no-
out of bounds.
There's not much
Too
more
many,
reason
just
to,
needed one. So watch out for those when you're making your way through this.
There's
room.
not much more
So
reason to
yeah,
fight more
that's the
trainers
fourth
than
cause
than
of
if.
invisible walls, which we're gonna call
I'm
floor
already
gap
the
due to
level I
misaligned
wanna be,
edge
so.
vertex. And so now let's look at the
Alright,
big
Jupiter
cause.
fight. Let's slow it
So
down.
remember that structure we had before, where it was just 2 steps?
Okay, our first mon's
Let's look at it
Cloister.
from
She
a
only
hub
has 2
again.
mods, right?
Remember, when this structure
I think-
rotated,
yeah, she only
the
has
2
2 mon.
floor
Alright, go
edges
Power
making
Whip.
up the seam stayed perfectly flush
One
with each
shot,
gaps
nice.
between them. But now focus your attention on this vertex of the upper step.
And
If we
Pidgeot,
move this vertex to a
we
slightly different
go
spot,
Crush
then
Claw.
the two floor edges aren't flush
Outspeeds,
anymore.
that's
There's a gap between them.
unfortunate.
And if we do
Okay,
our little
well, that was
process,
easy.
we can see that there are now floor gaps which could cause
That was
invisible
easy.
walls. And
Wow, I
geometry
never,
like this
like,
happens
I
in the
rarely,
game. There
I
are
seriously
vertices
never
that
ever
are
get
meant
this
to
far.
be
I don't want to
aligned,
stop this
but
run.
For whatever reason, they're a
I
bit
legit
off.
don't want to stop
You
this
know
run.
how the previous cause
I'm
of
gonna keep
invisible
going.
walls
Screw
stemmed
it.
from a misaligned edge
Screw it.
vertex? That one was at least understandable.
I probably
because the
shouldn't,
edge
but
vertex had to have
I am
integer
going to.
coordinates,
Should I?
so it couldn't be placed exactly on the
Should I
edge.
keep going?
But in this new case, there's really no excuse.
I don't know.
The programmers literally
The more
just
tired I
didn't
am,
line
the
up two floor
more
vertices
likely I am
that
to make the
had
bad
been lined
decisions.
up, causing there to be floor gaps.
I want to keep
So let's
going,
look
but
at
it's
some
like,
examples.
keep going?
In Cool
Alright.
Mountain, we have this wall near the beginning. Here are the
Why
floor
not?
edges, and we're gonna focus on this.
Okay, here's the deal. I will keep going until I either lose or get a new PB. And my PB was the double battle in Route 209. That's my PB. If I had to guess, I would say that we are roughly 30 to 40 minutes away from my PB, more or less.
And it's not a ceiling or out of bounds that's below these floor gaps, but another floor, specifically the death barrier. So the result of this is that we're able to jump into these floor gaps.
Next, we want to get the Explorer's Kit real quick, because we don't have a choice.
And by going through this gap, we don't necessarily die.
Not too bad.
Actually land
Yeah, no, it's not. It really isn't.
That's why this technique is
But
used in the 120
I fully
star
expect
class,
to lose
because
before we
the
get a
fastest way to
PB.
get to the wall kicks will
I haven't gotten a
then in
PB in
shifting
over like
sand plans,
1500
we have
attempts.
these
I'm
two
not even
forests of
joking.
quicksand, which
That's
presumably
not
show
even really
vertex
an
over here.
exaggeration.
But if we zoom in, we can see that their vertices
Platinum
are
Kaizo
actually
is
5
way
units
harder than
apart.
Pyro Leap Green
That means
Kaizo in my
all along
opinion.
the seam between those two
But people,
triangles,
most
there are
people agree with me.
columns of out of bounds.
I don't
Not
freaking
very
know,
good,
and I don't
because if you're
freaking care
riding a
either.
shell over that seam,
I-
there's a chance your shell might
just
break
from
out
my
of nowhere
experience.
and you'll die.
Invisawald?
Alright, let's
And
go
it
ahead
can also
and
mess up your flying,
register the
because
bike.
If you fly into out of bounds, your angle gets
Alright.
redirected downwards. So you might be
Alright, we got a
flying
crap ton
along
of
and
trainers to
suddenly
fight here on
you're
this
redirected
bridge.
downward into the quicksand.
Pero man, ¿qué es este juego? ¿Por qué
Oh,
eres
speed
tan
me?
así?
Then in Wet Dry World, we have this wall that lies on a seam between floors. If we focus on the lower right vertex, we can see that it misses the upper right vertex by 1 unit. So all along the seam, there are units of out of bounds that leak out. And so when you're collecting that ring of 8 coins, you might accidentally bonk on this invisible wall. Then in Tall Tall Mountain, we have this wall near the rolling log. We're gonna focus on this vertex on the right, but also there's an edge vertex on the left that we should also look at.
There you
So
go,
if
speed
we
me
zoom
too.
in on that,
Yeah, there's a
we can
lot
see
of gonna
that
be a
the
lot
edge
of Pokemon
vertex
without speed
misses
me, and
because
that really
of the floor
sucks.
gap.
That's
And
the
for
why I
other
want
vertex
Dragon
to be
Dance.
highlighted, it's off by where it should be by 1 unit. So all along the seam, unit columns of ceiling leak out from the ceiling on
Yeah,
the
speed me as
underside of
well.
the structure.
You got Bide.
Okay, this is the invisible
So we
wall
wanna
that I
throw
showed in the
Pokeballs.
intro. Remember that? You were so innocent back then, you had no idea how deep this rabbit hole went. Then still in Tall Tall Mountain, we have this wall triangle. Note that the triangle next to it is actually a floor and not a wall. And now we're gonna focus
there's no
on
point
this
risking it.
vertex. Zooming in on it,
Alright,
we
we're gonna
can
fight
see
you
that it's
next.
off by 1 unit, which means that all along the seam, there are floor gaps with floor under them because the death barrier is below here. And so it's actually possible to just fall right through one of those floor gaps and fall to the death barrier. Now this was the last main example of floor gaps with floor under them, aka the kind of floor gaps
But
you can
you-
just jump into. But there are a few other examples that aren't as interesting because you can't jump all the way into them. But they're still worth mentioning.
I'm gonna
so
mark
let's
down that
briefly
Pidgeot
go
has
through
low.
them.
Oh,
In
I didn't get
Cool
to
Mountain,
finish.
there's some
I was
floor
gonna write
gaps
down
at
it
the
had
start
low
of this
defense,
bridge.
but
So whenever you walk over this seam, you could enter free fall for a split second if your movement happens to line up with a floor gap. And if you try to fall into one of these floor gaps, the wall pushes you out before you're all the way through. Also in Cool
Beats me.
Mountain, there's some floor gaps in the wall kicks will work area at the start of this icy bridge. If you try to enter these, you get pushed to the side by the walls. In Snowman's Land, there's some floor gaps right where this walkway connects to the bully platform. If you try to enter these, you get pushed to the side by the wall. And in Tall Tall Mountain, there are some floor gaps right near the Monty Moles. Like the
I'm gonna
others,
risky
if you
for the
try to enter
Bisking.
these, you get pushed to
Why
the
am I
side
being
by the
unnecessarily
wall.
risky?
So
I don't
yeah,
know,
I just
but
wanted to point those out.
whatever.
And now back to the real.
Oh no, I can't use that
examples.
anymore. Alright.
Lastly, in the castle
Put all the
grounds, we
Pokemon
have
on
these
that.
two walls near the waterfall. So
All
this
the
one's
one.
like
Put
a
all the
2-for-1
trainers on that
special,
route.
because this
Now we want to go
vertex misses
heal.
by a bit, and this vertex also misses by a bit. So all along the seam of both of these walls, we have unit columns of out of bounds that leak through. So if you want to be like
Alright,
Yoshi
next thing
and
we
jump
want to
into
do
the
is we
waterfall,
want
you'll have to hope you
to.
miss these invisible walls. So that's the 5th cause of invisible walls, which we're going to call floor gap due to misaligned vertices. And with that, it means we've done the left
Oh,
side
ending
of the
rage, I'm
Punnett
on.
square, which focuses
Sorry,
on floor edges
my
failing
doofus.
to line up. Next, we're going to do the right side, which focuses on a floor edge and a ceiling edge failing to line up. You might get some deja vu as I explain it, because we're going to be going through a similar process to what we did before, but everything will be a little different. So, let's look at the 6th cause. So consider a box, just a regular old box. On the top there's a floor, on the bottom there's a ceiling, and on the sides there are walls. Now we're going to look at it from above on the unit grid. This time, I'm going to draw the floor from the top of the box and the ceiling from the bottom of the box.
There's
Right now,
item
the
there.
two rectangles exactly coincide, so it just looks purple. But I assure you,
The next
the
item
floor
is
rectangle
over
and the
here.
ceiling rectangle are being drawn. So this time, we're going to focus on the floor
Rival
rectangle
Herb.
south edge and the
Our
ceiling
next item's
rectangle
over
south
here.
edge. Or in other words, the edge at the top of the wall versus the edge at the bottom of the wall. The question we're going to be analyzing is,
All right,
do
next
these two
item
edges
is
line
over.
up, or does one jut out more than the other? On the unit grid, we can see that these two edges have the same lateral coordinates, so they do line up. Now, if we see any red area, then we know the ceiling is jutting out more. And if we see any blue
Trainer here,
area,
who
then
I
we
don't
know
mind
the
fighting
floor
because
is
there's no
jutting out
trainers in
more.
the cave we're
But
about to
if
go
all we
into.
see
So
is purple, then we know the floor edge and ceiling edge are exactly aligned. So let's put the structure back to a top-down view, and now let's rotate it. Still, the floor edge and the ceiling edge stay exactly in sync, so neither
That's
one
bomb.
juts out more.
Alright,
See,
we want to
the
do
two edges
this.
exactly match in terms of their
Or-
lateral coordinates. So let's rotate the structure back to normal.
There's no
and now
trainers
we're
in
gonna
here, so I'm not.
modify it.
So there's no need to worry.
Now it's 2 steps going to the right, and you can see this change reflected on the unit
we wanna
grid
slow
because
down
now
the game.
floor is subdivided into 2 rectangles while the ceiling is still just 1 rectangle. And if you notice, the floor
Oh, wait,
now
there's an
has
item back
2
here.
edge vertices because these vertices are meant to lie
Alright, dire
exactly
hit,
on the
cool.
ceiling edges
Dire
below.
hit.
Now since the whole
Dire
structure is
hit.
cardinally aligned, it's
I'm
easy
gonna go
for
here.
the edge vertices to lie exactly on their edges.
Then we
and
wanna
so
go-
no ceiling leaks through. On the 3D structure on the left, that means that this vertex exactly lines up with this edge. So let's clear all of that, put the structure back to a top-down view, and now let's rotate it again. You can see that now we run into the same issue from earlier because we have edge vertices at weird angles. For example, let's stop it here. At this angle, it's
There you go.
impossible for the edge
Alright.
vertex to lie in its edge, because the edge vertex has to be at integer coordinates,
Ah.
but the edge doesn't go through any integer coordinates. And so the edge vertex just has to pick
Oh,
integer
okay, I'll slow
coordinates
down the
that are
game to
close
normal
the
speed.
edge. In this case, the result is that the ceiling edge juts out a bit from the floor edge, because we can see some red area. Now if the edge vertex were here instead, then the floor would be jutting out because we can
Oh,
see
come
some
on.
blue area. That would be fine, since it means the floor covers the entire
come
ceiling
on.
and some extra. In fact, that's what's happening on the other side
You
of
just
the
like to
structure.
slow it
But
down.
since the edge vertex is here,
Oh,
now we have an
frick
issue,
off. This
because
is
the
so
ceiling
annoying.
juts out, which lets some ceiling leak
I hate
through.
this part.
To see
And I
this,
said
we
no
can
on the
do our own
rappel.
process. So
My
first,
gosh.
we'll mark each integer point as either floor or ceiling. If it's both floor and ceiling, then I'm coloring it purple.
There we go.
Then add the arrows.
Why is
and
that
then
so
fill
hard?
in the
It's
unit
actually really not
squares.
that hard.
And so
I
you
actually
can
got
see
it
that
first
some of
try.
the unit squares are ceiling with no floor to cover them. Consequently, those ceiling units leak through the leaning
I
wall
lasted this
and
bit,
cause
whatever.
invisible walls. And so,
Big root,
any structure
that's
that resembles
not
this structure could have
the kind of
same
route I
problem.
want.
The floor could have the edge vertex.
Alright, item
the
over
ceiling
here.
could have the edge vertex. They could both
Not
have
kind of
edge
the pattern I
vertices.
want.
In fact, the structure could even look like
Crack.
this,
I mean-
or like this, or like this. Basically, it'll be a
Let's
structure
get the
where
item.
on top there's a floor, on the bottom there's a ceiling, and on the side there are walls. Then you need the floor edges at the top of the wall and the
Okay, there's
ceiling
only one more
edges at the
item.
bottom of the wall to be
And
subdivided
it's-
differently. That causes there to be edge vertices, which are intended to line up with an edge. But if the structure is at a weird angle, then the edge vertex might be misaligned from its edge,
one.
allowing some ceiling to
Alright.
leak through.
Wow,
So
no
to
heals,
recap,
that
we
sucks.
looked at 4
You hate to see it, but
whether
it's
there
like
was no
whatever.
edge vertex or there was an edge vertex, and whether the structure was cardinally aligned or at a weird angle. And only when there was an edge vertex at a weird angle did the ceiling jut out. So those are the 2 main ingredients.
Alright,
Now
the
let's
next thing
look
we
at the
do
situation
is
from the
we,
side. So, consider the
got a bunch
box
of
again.
trainers
Let's
over here
put
to
it
fight.
sideways and take the cross section of it. As we saw in the previous demonstration, there's some
I'm gonna go
geometry
deposit
that
HMon
causes
so that
these 2
accidentally
points
gets
to be
switched out too.
misaligned, meaning the wall triangle can end up slanted. So just like last time, we're gonna look
Wanna
at
buy
5
some more
different
pills real
alignments
quick?
of the upper point. But this time, instead of checking whether 2 floors completely cover out of bounds, we're checking whether 1 floor completely covers a ceiling. So let's start with the wall being perfectly vertical. In this case, the edge of the floor is exactly flush with the edge of the ceiling. If we show the hitboxes, we can see that the floor completely covers the ceiling hitbox. And since none of the ceiling leaks through, it doesn't cause any invisible walls. So I'll give this case a happy face. Then next, let's look at leaning very far back. Here, the wall triangle is so slanted that it's now a ceiling.
Great,
So
have
that's
your
an
bike.
extra ceiling that
Do
the
run.
floor now needs to cover. But
I
if we
prefer
show
to
the
run. I feel
hitboxes, we can see
like
that
I
the
feel
floor
like
does
I'm
cover
more in
both
control
ceilings
because I can
completely.
like go
So this
slow when I
case
want
gets a
to,
happy
as
face.
opposed to
Then next, let's
if
look
you're
at
on the
leaning
bike,
a
I
little
always have to
bit.
go fast.
Here, the wall triangle is
So I
still a
prefer to
wall,
walk.
just a slightly leaning wall. If we show the hitboxes again, we can see that the floor still covers the whole ceiling. This time with a little bit of floor to spare.
Yeah.
So this case
Well,
gets
because
a
and I'm
happy
already
face.
playing the game on
Next,
speed up.
let's skip
Mirror
ahead and look
move.
at leaning very far forwards. Here, the wall triangle is so slanted the other
Frick
way that it's
off
now a
me.
floor. If we show the hitboxes, we can see that the 2
Oh,
floors
mirror
together
move, dude.
cover all of the ceiling. Like, the original floor no longer
See,
covers the whole
I can't
ceiling
even walk
because its
properly.
left edge is
If
to
I was
the
on the
right
bike all
of
the time, I'd be
ceiling's
running
left
the
edge.
walls left, right, and center.
Fortunately, the new floor is there to pick up the slack and cover that part. So this case gets a happy face. And then finally, let's look at leaning a little forwards. Here, the wall triangle is still a wall, just a slightly leaning wall. Now let's show the hitboxes. You can see that in this case, some of the ceiling leaks through the leaning wall, because walls don't cover ceiling hitboxes. It's just like I said earlier, walls
A
that lean
pearl.
slightly forwards
Wait
are
a
taking on the
minute. I'm just kidding.
responsibility of a
You can find
floor
pearls, but you
without
can't find
powers
diamonds. I think
floor.
Pokemon
So
had
give
some
this case an angry face.
has
So
some
to
favoritism
recap,
going
we
on
looked at
here.
5
Not gonna lie.
slants, and only a wall that's leaning slightly forwards lets ceiling hitbox leak through. And if we move the upper vertex around continuously,
I can
you
go
can
up
see
in
that
speed.
it's only a very narrow range that lets the ceiling leak through. Specifically,
Right, now
the
we go
wall
down
triangle
here,
has
we
to be
fight
leaning
you.
forwards so that the ceiling juts out more than the floor, but the wall can't be leaning too far forwards or else it acts as a floor that covers that distance. And finally, let's look at the side view and the top-down view at the same time. When the wall leans very far back, the
Wow,
fill is
what
just
the
a uniform
frick is your
shade of purple,
speed
so
or
no
your
ceiling
defense,
leaks.
dude?
When the wall leans a little back, we see some blue, meaning the floor juts out more than the ceiling. But that doesn't cause any trouble. When the wall is
Alright.
perfectly vertical, it's also a uniform
More
shade
like
of purple,
dead
which is
it.
fine. When the wall leans
That's
a little
not funny.
forwards, now we see some
I'm
red,
so sorry.
meaning the ceiling juts out more than the floor. So
Thanks,
some
on
ceiling
how we
might
know
be
your
leaning
defense
through
is
the leaning wall.
garbage.
And when the wall leans very far forwards, then the wall becomes a floor that covers the ceiling hitbox. So it's once again a uniform shade of purple, which is
Charmander!
fine.
Bro, I had a
And so,
Charmander
it's only
and
the
a
one case where
Bulbasaur. That's
ceiling leaks
hilarious.
through. And let me clarify something. Last time we looked at floor gaps.
Black
which actually had 3 different
flute.
subcases. It could be a floor gap with a floor under it.
Bro,
a
I
floor
need
gap that lets
heals
out
and you're
sound,
giving me useless
or a floor gap that
garbage
lets ceiling
game.
leak
What is wrong with
but
you,
this time, there's just one
game?
case. When
I'm
the
gonna die to
ceiling
a lack
juts
of
out,
heals
the
from
ceiling
losing
leaks
to
through.
Destiny
So I
Bond.
just wanted to clarify that bit of asymmetry. And so now, let's look at some examples. In Bob on Battlefield, we have this gray tunnel. Here's the wall,
3 of
and
those?
you can see that the edges at the
Three
top
what?
and bottom of
3
the
black
wall are
flutes?
subdivided differently, which causes there to be edge vertices. So let's go to a top-down view, show the floors on the top of the tunnel, and you can see
Oh
that
wow,
on
I
the
do.
vertical of the tunnel, we have
I have
some
3
ceiling.
focus ashes
So
too.
let's add those to our
That's
map as
funny.
well. Now we're gonna zoom in on each edge vertex. On all 4 of
A
these
spear
edge
berry.
vertices,
It's not
you can see
a
some red areas,
heal,
meaning
but
the
I'll
ceiling
take. We
juts
take
out more
those
than the
status
floor.
healing
And
berries.
so the result is that all along this edge, there are ceiling units with no floor to cover them.
I know
resulting
3
in an
3 black
invisible wall.
flutes and
But
3
you can't
heals.
forget about the other side of the
Something
tunnel,
seems
because
suspicious
here
in
we
this
have something
game.
very
What's going on?
similar Another 4 edge
All right.
vertices. But will the
Next we
ceiling
get
jut
to
out or the
do
floor jut out?
heck
Let's
word.
see. First, the ceiling juts out,
This
then
is the
floor
part of the
juts
game
out,
that
then
stresses me out the
ceiling juts
most,
out,
past
then the
Gardenia.
floor juts out. So
Besides
interestingly,
Gardenia
we actually
herself.
end up with only 2 ceiling units of invisible wall, one at each of the 2 vertices where the
Because there's a
ceiling
crap
jutted
ton of
out.
trainers.
So that's a cool thing.
I mean, they're
about this
all
type of
all the
invisible
trainers in
wall.
this
Sometimes
is
there
in
will
this
just be a single
lab
unit
or
column sticking
this
out
lab
right at
in
the
this
ceiling vertex
cave are
itself.
optional.
And now I'll show you another cool thing you can
But
do
you
with
want to fight them
invisible
because you
walls.
want
Walking
experience.
in
So
midair, then downward it.
it's like
So how does that work? Well, let me explain.
they're all really high
As you
leveled. So
know,
it's
Mario's movement
it's
consists of
it
moving using
the,
quarter steps.
fighting choosing to fight trainers in this upcoming area is very it's high risk high reward
For how the quarter step went.
kind of a
In
thing.
total, there are 4 possible values that can be returned. First,
Thankfully,
the
there's a way to
movement
get most of the
succeeded.
items
This is
without fighting
basically
any
the
trainers, so we're gonna do that
default
first.
nothing unexpected happened.
But
Second, Mario became airborne.
and I'm just warning you,
This
you're
happens
not
when you
going
hit
to
the
be able to
ground.
see anything.
Third, the movement got canceled.
Okay,
either
let
because
me
Mario
put the
moved
berry
into
here.
the ceiling or out of bounds.
Uh,
And fourth, Mario hit a wall,
goes
which happens when Mario hits
weakens
a
a
wall.
normal type. Yeah, we'll
Now,
do
the
that
quarter
one,
step
sure.
function can only return one of these values. So even if it seems like multiple things happened, the function
Alright, so we
just
want to
has
follow
pick
a
one and
very
return
specific
it.
path. So we
For
want to
example,
break this rock
let's say we have
here.
it set up like this,
We want to go
and
up
Mario does a
here,
quarter step.
turn
This
right,
quarter
get
step
this
both
item.
moves the
X attack.
ground
Okay,
and
that's
moves
actually
into
really
the
good.
ceiling that cancels
Alright,
this.
we want to break this
The function
rock. We
can't
want to
return
go
both
up
that
here,
Mario became airborne
go
and the
here,
movement got
break this
canceled,
rock,
so it just has to pick one.
go up
And
here,
in this case, it
go
picks that the
right,
movement got canceled. That one takes priority. So what
go
happens
down,
here is that the movement gets
get this
canceled
item
and
here,
Mario ends up pushing in place.
go
He
right,
does not become airborne. Here's what that looks like in the game.
go
Mario's
down,
movement gets canceled even though the quarter step goes off the edge. But now consider this. Let's say Mario's
down,
walking into a ceiling and
hit
then
an item
suddenly the
here,
floor moves out from under him.
break
You'd
this
think he would
rock, go
fall down,
right,
but that's not what
go
happens.
down,
He's actually able to
break
stay
this
in the
rock,
air, walking into
go
the ceiling.
right,
See,
go
the
up,
normal way that the game realizes that Mario's
go right,
airborne is
go
by checking
up,
the return value of the quarter step function and seeing
break
if it's
this
the
rock.
airborne option. But as we just established,
Avoid
if Mario
talking to this
walks into a
NPC at all
ceiling and the
costs.
air at the same time,
I'm not even
then
gonna
the
have
quarter
my
step
entertain
function
that.
just
Okay, and then
confirms
hit
that
item
the
here.
movement got canceled,
Alright, that's all the
not
items that we can
Mario
get without
became
fighting
airborne.
trainers. Now we
So
have
at
to
no
fight
point
trainers.
does the
Well, we
game
don't have to,
realize that
but I
Mario's
choose to
become
because
airborne,
I want
but
experience.
instead, he's just allowed to
So
continue
the first
moving
trainer we
into
want
the
to fight
ceiling in
is Nice.
There. An easy place to see this is on this elevator in Big Boo's haunt. We can walk into the ceiling next to the elevator, and then Mario stays in place pushing even as the elevator
this trainer.
moves away.
What if I use
Now,
trainer
when you're
first?
in this state, there are a few things you can do. You can press A.
All right, I'm gonna slow it down here.
You can press B to
because
punch in place,
this cave is
and you can
scary.
press
We're gonna go
C,
Crush
which
Claw.
downwarps you to the
All right,
ground
good.
while crouching. Why does it downwarp you? Well, when you press Z while you're moving, you go into the crouch sliding action. Now, an interesting thing
Level
about
up
the
here.
sliding actions is that they tilt Mario based
Alright, now
on
we
the
wanna fight
floors
you.
around him. See, even though Mario's on a flat floor, the sliding action
Registeel,
causes him to
oh
tilt based
no.
on that hill next to him.
That's
Here's a
actually really
punch in
bad.
the code
Go Mega Punch,
responsible
we
for setting
miss.
that tilt,
Fire Fang does
but
a
you can
lot.
see
Mega
that the
Punch, we
first thing
miss.
this
Fire
function
Fang does a lot.
does is set Mario's height to be at the height of the
I
floor
hate
below
missing
him.
moves.
So
And
that
just
means
like that,
every
we
time
lost
you
over half
slide,
our
you
HP
tilt
in
set,
one
you're also
freaking
being
Pokemon.
set
It's
to the
absolutely
floor
amazing.
below you. More specifically,
Got
this
the
floor
Lychee
step
Berry.
happens
Alright.
in every frame
So-
except if your last quarter step became airborne. You know, because they didn't want you to get a big downward when you slide off the edge. So let's say you're in midair. And
If
you're
I
walking
leave
into
now,
the
I'm missing
ceiling.
out on 3
Then you press
items
Z to
and
crouch
6
slide into the
trainers.
ceiling. The first quarter step of the
Potentially
crouch slide
8
enters
trainers
the
worth of
ceiling
experience.
hitbox and gets canceled. So the return value of
So
that
it's a
quarter
matter
step is that it got
of
canceled, not that it became
how
airborne.
risky I want
Because
to
like
be.
said,
I
any
want to play it.
sliding movement
I have a
that doesn't become
lemonade.
airborne
I don't want to
aligns
waste a
Mario with the
lemonade just to
ground.
get some
And so he gets
extra
a big
experience.
downwarp to the floor below him.
I do
So
have
that's
2
how the downwarp works
potions.
in Big Boo's Haunt. So this mostly explains how I downwarped
Yeah,
earlier.
it all comes
I
down to
walked
how
into a
risky I wanna
ceiling in
play it.
midair and then pressed Z. But how did I initiate walking in midair without standing on a platform that moves out from
Can't
under
heal,
me?
come back. No,
Well,
it's a
it has to do
dungeon.
with the
Once you
turning
enter a
around
dungeon, you
action. See,
you
when Mario
cannot
starts turning around, it goes into the turning around action. Then
leave
a
and
bit
come back.
later,
So
transitions
once
into
I
the walking
leave,
action.
I will not be able to
It's
come
a
back here.
finished turning
So I could
around.
technically
Here's
leave
the
and
code
heal,
for the turning
but I
around
wouldn't be able to
action.
come back
Here's
here and get the
relevant
items
logic.
and or
So if Mario's
trainer
done
experience.
turning around, specifically,
So
if
it's
turning
a
around
matter
animation is
of
completed, then Mario
how
goes
risky
into
do
the
I
walking
want to
action.
be in order
Now, a bit
to get
earlier,
more
we have some
stuff.
other
So
important code. This one says
if I play risky, I get more experience and items, but I also might lose the entire run
Let's say on the same frame,
due to my
Mario
greed.
both leaves the ground and finishes
So
turning around. Then first,
it's
his action gets set to free fall, and then second, his action gets set to walking. So that
I don't
first
know.
action change gets overridden.
I
by the
think
second
I'm
action
gonna-
change. And so even though Mario left the
I'm
ground,
going
he
to
still ends
do
up in the walking action. Now,
2
this
more
exploit by
trainers.
itself just results in 1 frame of
I'm gonna
walking
play a
in the
little
air
bit risky,
before
but I'm not gonna play
transitioning to
too
free
risky.
fall on the next frame. But let's say
So-
we use that 1 frame of walking in the air to walk into out of
I'm
bounds.
gonna
Now
try to beat
Mario
these 2
stays
trainers, get the
walking
item down
in
there,
midair,
and then I'm
by
out no
pressing
matter
Z.
what.
We can also use that 1 frame of walking in the air to walk into a ceiling, which also lets us down.
Of course you have
Since
Intimidate.
invisible walls are made
Of
out
course you
bounds
have
and
Intimidate.
ceilings, we can also do the trick on them.
The
by
Viper,
walking
we
in
go Crush
midair
Claw.
and then pressing Z to
Okay.
downward. So let me summarize everything. I did
Alright,
a
now fight you.
turnaround and then walked off the edge on the same frame that the turnaround ended. That first set my action to free fall,
Pachirisu,
but then
I think I can
overrode it with
one-shot.
a walking action. So I was in midair,
Alright.
but still in the walking
I didn't lose any
then I walked into the
HP.
invisible wall, so the quarter step
Realize
return
you.
value was
I didn't
when the
lose any
quarter step
HP,
got
so if I
canceled.
want to, I
Not
could
that
try to be risky
because of
and
that, the game
fight
didn't
more
know
trainers.
that I
What do you
shouldn't
think?
become airborne, and so it just let me walk in midair. And finally,
It's so
I pressed Z to
tempting.
downward because the crouch sliding action
So
aligns
tempting,
Mario
but
with
it's
the
like,
floor
I don't
if it doesn't become
want
airborne.
to
And
get
here,
greedy
it
and
didn't become
lose.
airborne, it got canceled because I crouch slid into the invisible
I don't
wall.
know, man.
So a lot
I don't
going on
know.
there, but that's how you can downwarp on basically any invisible wall. Then still in Bob on Battlefield, we have this wall on the mountain. This
2
is the wall with
potions?
the
Nah.
alcove. Now, there's 1 triangle on the wall that's actually classified as a ceiling. So
We have
let's
2
mark that
potential
ceiling
items
as well.
left.
So that gives us 4 edge vertices.
I
And as you
really
can
need
see,
heals though. My heals
4
are
of them have a
awful,
ceiling
man.
down more
If
than
my heals
floor.
were better,
So that
I
means
would
both
feel
on
more
the ceiling
confident
and
about just straight up
along
leaving
that
now, but
little
like
extra ceiling, we have ceiling columns leaking through. Luckily, none
the
of
fact
them
that I could
block
potentially
vision
be
of the
missing out on
mountain
heals
itself. But if you're on top of the
is
mountain, you could hit
what's
this
going
invisible
to
wall
lead
if you
me
try
to
cross above this edge. Then right above that previous wall, we have this wall on the mountain. This is the wall with the upper alcove, which if you remember, already had an invisible wall in it. But anyway, we have 4 edge vertices on the ceiling of the alcove. So let's see. Floor
This
juts
says
out, floor
peace
juts
out, but
out,
one more if you
ceiling
wanna.
juts out, ceiling
I
juts
think
out.
we
So
should do at
basically,
least
just on the right
one more
side of the
trainer.
alcove
Okay,
ceiling,
here's
we have some
here's
ceiling
what we'll do. I'm gonna do 1 more trainer. If I don't lose any HP, I'll do 1 more trainer and get the item. But if I do lose HP on that first trainer, then I'm just gonna dip out. That's my call. That's what call I'm gonna make here. So let's go down here. And we're gonna fight this trainer. A Lapras. Let's Power Whip. Okay. Magnezone. We're gonna definitely lose HP here. No, we don't. Wow. Okay. All right. Fight this trainer now. Kangaskhan, we know you have bad defense. Get a new move here. Counter, completely useless. Pechaberry. Okay, that was worth it. We haven't lost an HP so far, and we just leveled up. So I think we try to go for the full clear. I think we risk the full clear here. I just got really bad luck against that Registeel. But I think we go for the full clear here. Because I haven't lost an HP and I leveled up, so that makes my odds look a little bit better. Okay, so we want to fight. We want to make sure we don't do the double battle. Mr. Mime, we can just Shadow Punch that into oblivion. Vacuum Wave hurts. I'm gonna risk it still. We're like so close. Dustox, that's fine. Just don't miss. Alright, we didn't technically full clear. There's 2 more trainers we could fight, but I'm not freaking risking it. We at least got all the items though. We at least got all the items. I am totally happy with that. At least now I can sleep well at night knowing that I didn't miss any items in this area. None of them were like potions or anything. But honestly, I don't even care. Let's just get out. I have no idea where I am. Wait, where am I? Okay, I think I am here. Wait, where am I? Wait, where am I? Oh, I'm right here. All right, I went too far to the right. I goofed. Wasn't paying attention and I got lost, but I'm fine. I know where I am though. It's fine. Well, never mind. No, I do. I still know where I am. It's okay. It's okay. Go this way. Go down here. Way down. Way down. Way. And should be out. Awesome. Burning with death is scary, yeah, for sure, but I mean, shoot, I think it was worth it. We got a good experience. All right. Now we're almost to the part where I lost this morning because I got a Infernate past Gardenia and I lost to some random trainer because I got froze 5 turns in a row. So we're almost to that part. Let me go heal right now. Use repel. All right, I'm gonna go over here. All right, this item here, item here, item here. All right, we come out here. Now we want to avoid all the trainers here. I'm gonna save, by the way. I can't believe I've gotten this far into the game without saving. Kind of feel like an idiot. Save state. While it's saving. All right. All right, so MCC. So I want to skip trainers here. We have to fight this trainer. All right, Gyarados. Let's just crush Claw. All right. All right, we want to get this item up here. This plane. All right, cool. All right, so we want to fight you next. This is the trainer right here that I lost to. So let's try not to lose here. Yay, new PB, at least for today. Not new PB in total, but new PB. I didn't want to buy new PB for today, but not new PB. We still got a little bit, good chunk of time before we get an actual PB.
Through. So you could hit these if you try to travel above the alcove. Now, speedrunners actually come out of that upper alcove and side flip up to King Babam, potentially going right through the invisible wall. So if you ever try that side flip and you only managed to ledge grab, you probably got blocked by that invisible wall. Then in Jolly
Alright,
Roger
let's get
Bay,
into town
we
here.
have this wall on the sunken ship. The wall is a diamond shape, so it has two edge
Pretty much on there,
vertices,
yeah.
one at the top corner and one at the bottom corner. You can see that both edge vertices let the ceiling jut out, and it juts out by a lot. So once again, we have a really thick invisible wall.
I think Driftloon's
Now this is our first invisible wall that stems from
yes, Driftloon. I have a Driftloon. Oh my gosh. That means I can go in the I can go in the upper area and get some free items. Let's go. Alright, let's go do that real quick.
If you're standing on an object and you jump up too high,
Before I go back
you
for
may
those
notice
trainers.
your shadow change positions. That's because when you jump up too high, you move out of the object's tangibility radius, and so the object stops being
Alright.
tangible. In other words, the object stops loading its surface triangles, and so your shadow drops from on top of the object to just on top of the ground. So let's go back to the sunken ship. The invisible walls here stem from the ship's ceiling triangles. In other words, these invisible
go up
walls
here.
only exist when the ship's surface triangles are loaded. And that only happens when Mario is within this radius around the ship.
Wait,
So
for
if Mario's
east
outside of that
entrance,
radius, the
follow
ship
the
won't
lines
have
from
these
start
surface
to
triangles, and so
get both
effectively,
items.
there are no invisible walls outside of the radius.
What?
And so going forward, all invisible walls stemming from
There's your
object
dogs out, no
triangles
problem.
will
I'm
have
just
their
getting
height capped at the object's
some
tangibility
items
radius. So
real
here,
quick.
you can see that if we
The
swim above
TM.
the invisible wall, nothing happens, since the ship isn't tangible when we're this far away from it. But if we swim a little lower down
Oh wait,
into
we
the
gotta
invisible
go on the
wall,
other
then
side.
the ceiling
One.
triangles are loaded and affect Mario, causing him to downwarp. Because remember, when you're in water, ceiling hitboxes downwarp you to the bottom of their hitbox.
What is it going here while I'm here?
What just happened? What just happened?
Then in
Your
Cool
guess
Cool
is as good as
Mountain,
mine, dude.
we have
I don't
this
know.
wall on the side of this snowy bridge. It's just a triangle, so it has one edge vertex on the bottom. If we zoom in, you can see that the ceiling juts out.
Oh,
meaning
okay,
we
I
have
see what
ceiling
we're gonna
columns
do
all
here, okay.
along this edge.
Get this item
And
here.
I really like the way this one looks. It's very
Iron Riser,
aesthetically
oh
pleasing.
boy.
But anyway, if you're sliding down this path, be
Alright,
wary
wanna
of
go
jumping off to the
up
right
here
side
then.
here.
Oh, I meant to
Still
go.
in Cool Cool
I meant to
Mountain, we have
go.
this wall near the wall kicks will work area. It has
Left.
one edge vertex on the top. And when we
Alright.
zoom in, you can see that the ceiling
Go
juts
left
out.
here,
So we
and
have
then
a
it's gonna
decently
take us
thick
here,
invisible
and then we
wall
wanna
that
go
extends
left
out
in
farther
here.
away from the ledge. Now you might think,
And then
who would
we
ever run into
takes
this
us here. We
invisible
wanna go
wall?
left in
Like,
here.
You're not just gonna jump off the edge right there, right? Well,
this
not
item.
exactly. You see, speedrunners
Okay,
jump down
leftovers.
that way to get to the wall kicks will work star. So let's take a look at some past attempts.
Alright. Well, that was a waste of time. There's no good items there. Whatever.
How am I standing here?
Alright, let's go back and find those trainers that we
Oh.
skipped real quick.
Mario?
Are we gonna need?
What
We're not gonna
the
need any
fuck?
HMs for
Oh
them, so
my-
let's go deposit our HM on real quick. Put one in.
So what's going on with those? Mario's doing some weird animations. Well, let me explain. Firstly, when Mario's on a steep floor, he slides down. You can even slide into ceilings and out of bounds, in which case your movement gets cancelled and you just stay sliding in place. And note that when you're sliding, you can use the control stick to tilt Mario's upper body. Now, usually when you're in a sliding action, your animation updates every frame to be the sliding animation. But there's an oversight in the
Alright,
sliding
we wanna
code,
fight
because if you're
you.
sliding and your movement gets cancelled, either from moving into a ceiling or out of bounds, then Mario's animation doesn't get set to the sliding animation. Instead,
then we wanna
just
fight
keep
you.
whatever animation you are already in. I mean, here, I was already in the sliding animation when I started sliding into out of bounds, so I kept that sliding animation. But let me
Mark up
demonstrate
defense.
it with a different animation. Here, I do the
only
pushing
version I have
animation,
of that.
then start sliding
Alright, then we
into
get
out
an
of
item
bounds.
here.
The sliding into out of bounds doesn't update Mario's
Alright, that's all the
animation,
trainers
so his
for this
animation
area.
stays as pushing, even though he's actually sliding. And when you're in this state, you can still use
Alright,
the
I think it's
control
gym
stick
time.
to tilt Mario's upper body. So going
Yeah,
back
we gotta
to
do the
Cool
gym
Cool
time.
Mountain, you can see that the invisible wall here is right
Yay!
next to a steep floor that makes you
We get to
slide.
do the
So we can use the
gym.
invisible wall
I
to let us
totally
slide
don't
in
expect
place with
to
various
lose at
other
all.
animations. For example,
I'm
here
not
I
getting my
slide
hopes
in
up
place
with
in
this
the
thing,
back
honestly.
flipping
I really
animation.
am not.
So it doesn't even look like Mario landed yet, even though he's actually on the
Let's
ground.
go heal,
sliding.
and
Here I
then
slide in the jumping animation, and remember, I can
it
still
is
tilt
him
Mario's
leader
upper body,
time.
which looks pretty funny in this animation. It definitely wasn't intended to
Oh,
handle
just
that.
gym
Here I
time.
slide
I don't
in
even
the
know if I'll be able
walking
to get to the gym
animation.
later, but we'll
This
see.
one also looks pretty silly when you tilt him, especially because he's just running in place.
Alright, wish me
Where are you
luck.
trying to get to, Mario? You trying to go somewhere? Oh,
Go
almost
chest.
got there.
Let's go
Come on,
pet
Mario.
ya.
You can do it. Oh, almost there. Come on, a little more. Oh, there we go.
Alright, so we
Here
have to
I
fight
do a
every
triple
trainer
jump
in
into
gym.
it, so I
In
slide in
gym.
the triple jump animation. And here I slide
whatever.
in the sparkly
Alright,
triple
float
jump
soul.
animation, which results in Mario somersaulting
Power whip.
for forever. So yeah,
Nice, we
fun to
don't
play
miss.
around with. Then in Hazy Maze Cave, we have this
Armaldo.
wall on this little floating structure. It has
Go
two
Shadow
edge
Punch.
vertices on the bottom. So will the floor jut out or the ceiling
Crap.
jut out?
Oh!
On this first vertex,
That's
actually neither one
not
juts
good.
out. They're exactly
I should've went for
aligned.
Power Whip,
So
dang
give it up
it.
for the programmers,
If I went for
guys.
Power
They
Whip,
made an edge
I probably
vertex
would've
that
been fine.
exactly lies on its edge. No one thought it could be done, but here we are. Well, to be fair, this edge is at a
Oh, of course you
45
got
degree
speed.
angle, so not exactly a weird angle. And then for the other
Alright,
edge
it's
vertex,
looking
the
like
ceiling
this
juts
is
out.
this
So
gym is
actually,
the
that results in just one ceiling column of invisible
it's
wall,
looking like
right at
this
the
gym
vertex
is going
itself.
to
But then there's also the other
be
side
the end
of
of
the
us.
structure, which is like a mirror image of the first side. So we have two edge vertices. One of them
Alright,
lines
let's
up
fight you
exactly,
first.
and the other one lets the ceiling jut out. So on this side too, we have another ceiling column all by
Cross
itself.
lass.
So I
We go
actually
Shadow
don't know if
Punch.
anyone's ever hit these ones before, given how little area they cover. Then in Lethal Lava Land, we have this
Monotone.
wall at the start of the walkway.
Shadow Punch.
There's one edge vertex at the bottom. Now the edge vertex misses its
Level
edge,
up.
but it's interesting because to the left this causes a floor
Alright,
gap with out-of-bounds units, and
let's
to the
fight
right,
this
it causes
trainer
the
up to the
ceiling to
right
jut out
here
with ceiling
first.
units. So it's once again
Or
a
next.
hybrid invisible
Not first,
wall
technically.
with some out of bounds and some ceiling. So
For
be
alligator.
careful when you jump onto the start of this path. because
Alright,
you
let's
will
go
get burned if you mess up. Then in
for
Snowman's
Power Whip.
Land, we have this wall on the ledge with the tree. It has one edge vertex on the bottom.
Alright,
this one's
Linoon,
also
we
a
go
hybrid
Crush
in a
Claw.
sense, because on the left we have a floor gap with ceiling leaking through, and on the right we have the ceiling
Hair
jutting
Cross,
out more than
let's
the floor
also
does.
go Crush
So that
Claw.
means all along this edge there are ceiling columns leaking through.
Alright,
if
next
you're ever climbing up the
trainer we're gonna
snowman
fight
and you
here
randomly
is
have your
this
height cut
one.
short or bonk while you're crossing this edge, now you know why. Then still in Snowman's Land, we have this section near the top of the snowman. This
Alright,
one's a little
just
weird
Power Whip.
because it doesn't involve a wall.
Yeah, 'cause it
Instead,
uses X
to the
spend.
left we have a ceiling, so let's mark the ceiling's edge.
Now you also have
And to
Lemonade.
the
I
right,
do,
we have
and I
the
probably
floor,
will end
so
up
let's
using
mark
it.
the floor's edge.
I probably
And
will
so
end up using it.
basically, the edge vertex is here because the floor
but
vertex is meant
I
to
haven't
lie
had
on the
to.
ceiling's
Yes,
edge.
it does. It
Now,
heals
if the edge
80
vertex misses,
hit
which means that
points
farther to the
specifically.
right, we have the ceiling jutting out more
Alright,
than the floor.
let's
So all
Mega
along this edge,
Punch.
we have some invisible wall from the ceiling leaking through. This one could get in your way if you try cutting across the corner while climbing the snowman.
Okay, good, we didn't
But
miss.
Also, this invisible wall is next to a floor so steep that you can't stand on
Alright,
it or slide on it.
it's
You
gym
just
leader
fall off
time.
of it. So a
We
cool
just gotta
thing you can
find.
do
Okay,
is
so it's
wedge Mario between the floor and
the
the
heart?
invisible wall,
That
and
was
he just
that was the
kinda
heart,
gets
right?
stuck there in
Oh my
the
gosh, I
falling
cannot see it.
animation. But
Right,
it
this is
is
heart, so we gotta
possible
find
to
the
get out
heart.
of it.
Move! Oh my gosh. Alright, it's this one. No, oh, I almost went in the wrong door. That would have been annoying.
What is going on?
Alright,
What? I've never seen that. What?
Then in Tall Tall
let's take off
Mountain, we have
Pechaberry
this wall near the
and
rolling log.
go
See, there's a
Chesto.
reason I picked this place to use for the intro, and it's because there's so many
Alright, here we go.
invisible walls around here that I
Santino.
figured the most people would relate to bumping into one.
pause the video. Leads with Huntail. Alright, we go Power Whip. Okay, first one down. We level up here. Okay, we're about to get our last level up move here. Please be Dragon Dance. Please. Ripple kick. It's like double kick, but like way worse. Double kick's not even that good. I will pass. Well, it's kind of disappointing for a last level up move, but whatever. Alright, next is Soul Rock. Soul Rock outspeeds us. I think we put this thing away early. Let's go Shadow Punch, and that hurts. We're gonna have to heal here. Next is Nidoking. Alright, let's use our Lemonade. Of course you get a crit. Alright, Crush Claw. One shots. Next is Miss Magius. We go Shadow Punch. Takedown. Almost kills us. Alright, we have to not get priority moved or outsped here in order to win. Oh, we lost. Well, I knew as soon as I saw that as a Metagross we were gonna lose. No PB. No PB. I'm pretty proud of myself to get Fantina though. I haven't gotten to Fantina in like forever. So I'll take it. We would have won if we got better item luck, but our item luck was absolutely atrocious. We didn't get like any heals. We got like no heals whatsoever. Like you saw how bad my item luck was. It was absolutely garbage. Absolutely just trash. I didn't get like any heals like at all. So I'm not surprised I lost there. All right, well, that's that. No PB yet, but we keep going. We keep trying. Thanks for being here with me, Pink. I'm gonna end the stream. I need to go. I need to make my bed and then I need to shower. Good night, everybody. If you're watching this back, I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. I'll see you soon. Yeah.